Chapter 598. The crazy state of the great old ancestor scared everyone, and the image of the benevolent emperor that was established by the great old ancestor instantly collapsed. It should be said that the entire world dragon empire was benevolent. Even in the face of other empires, they would negotiate peacefully. Only when they were forced to do so would they start a war to calm the situation. Therefore, the reputation of the World Dragon Empire was so prosperous. It was because the World Dragon Empire had several benevolent emperors. Even if they did something wrong, many cultivators were willing to join them. In their opinion, this wasn't a problem at all. Now that the great old ancestor's true face was exposed, he wanted to sacrifice all the cultivators in the imperial capital and absorb all their blood essence for his own use. It seemed that the Great Array had already been set up a long time ago, and now it was being used. Because the World Dragon Imperial capital was very prosperous, many elite geniuses stayed here, and now they were about to become the great old ancestor's food. One by one, they couldn't believe that the great old ancestor would do such a crazy thing, but the truth was right in front of them. The great old ancestor was crazily extracting their blood essence, and he couldn't stop it. The power of the Great Array was getting stronger and stronger, and it wouldn't take too long for it to drain their blood essence. At that time, they would become dry corpses, and they wouldn't die for a while, but they would die after a while. During this process, the most terrifying thing was that they couldn't die even if they wanted to. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, please save us, please. I beg you, please save us. The great old ancestor is too unscrupulous. He cultivates evil martial arts. Please kill him. One by one, they turned to look at Yi Tianyan, wanting Yi Tianyan to save them. Previously, they wanted the great old ancestor to kill Yi Tianyan. Now, all of them wanted Yi Tianyan to save them and kill the great old ancestor. This change was really fast. When they saw the true face of the great old ancestor, their faces changed, and they didn't dare to support him anymore. They supported the previous World Dragon Empire that was reasonable and took care of its people, not the current bloodthirsty mad demon. Cultivating evil martial arts was not welcomed by everyone. That was why when they saw the supreme old ancestor wanted to sacrifice them, they all chose to change sides. This was just too ruthless. He wanted to sacrifice everyone. Some were afraid of death, while others weren't. Previously, in order to protect the patriarch, many cultivators were completely unafraid of death, and were completely loyal to the Grand Supreme Patriarch. Now things were different. The wind direction immediately changed. It wasn't that they were afraid of death, but rather that they didn't like this kind of method of abandoning everything. For example, when they were escaping, they were willing to be meat shields, but if they were forcefully pulled over by the monarch, it would be a different story. With a single command, they would be willing to go through fire and water at any time, even sacrificing their own lives. However, doing so would be too cruel and merciless, which was not what they wanted to see. A bunch of trash. I've protected you for so many years, and this is my reward. What evil martial arts? The winner is the king, and the loser is the thief. When I conquer the entire mortal world, who would dare to say that this is an evil martial art? The supreme old ancestor looked at Yi Tianyan with red eyes and said, I didn't expect that you would force me to use my last trump card. I originally wanted to use it for the final breakthrough in my cultivation, but you forced me to use it. I admit that you are very strong, but under my demon blood array, do you think you can deal with me? His power rose in a straight line, and it was getting stronger and stronger. Originally, he thought that he had reached the limit, but now it was crazily climbing. After all, with so much blood energy rushing over, even if he couldn't absorb all of it, it was still not a problem to use it to attack. Especially under this meticulously prepared formation, its power was not that easy to resist. With the appraisal eye, the data was indeed jumping crazily. Compared to his previous state of being on the verge of death, he had now become extremely strong. His combat power jumped from 3.5 billion to 4.1 billion in one go. This was already quite crazy, and it was even with Yi Tianyan. Although the World Dragon Empire's array was very powerful, it didn't mean that it could provide him with a lot of power. Increasing his combat power by 600 million was already very terrifying. However, this was only equal to him. and he still had many trump cards that he hadn't used. In the face of such an existence, he didn't want to use too many trump cards. Therefore, he didn't even bother to use his weapon before, but now he had to use his weapon, otherwise he really wouldn't be able to deal with it. You are really crazy. You want to sacrifice the lives of the entire heavenly dragon imperial city? You will be punished by heaven. Tianyan glanced around. The life and death of some cultivators had nothing to do with him, and they were the ones who had shouted the most fiercely before. However, most of them were innocent, especially those with low cultivation, who were just hiding on the side. Of course, he didn't need to care about their life and death. He had no obligation to save them, and he had no blood relationship with them. Even so, he wouldn't leave them alone. They were just brainwashed, and they were completely deceived by the World Dragon Empire. More importantly, cultivating this kind of evil martial art was really disgusting. As long as someone cultivated this kind of martial art, it meant that they would always be thirsty for blood essence, especially the blood essence of geniuses. As long as there were geniuses in the sect, they would be captured and extracted. He always thought that only the Netherworld Empire, or the heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation would cultivate this kind of martial art. He didn't expect that even the World Dragon Empire would cultivate this kind of martial art. In fact, this kind of cultivation method had always existed. For example, absorbing the blood essence of the dragon race, or refining elixirs. There was no difference between this kind of martial art and absorbing blood essence. However, there was one exception, and that was absorbing the blood essence of the same race. Once someone cultivated this kind of martial art, it was very likely that they would harm their own sect. This kind of martial art was really evil. Although it was evil, there were still many people who cultivated it. After all, the speed of cultivation was greatly increased, and the effect was too tempting. Who could refuse? Heaven's punishment? The highest old ancestor laughed and said, "What bullshit heaven's punishment? Heaven doesn't care about this kind of thing. To heaven, you are just a group of ants. Who cares about the life and death of ants? This is the law of the jungle. You are still too young." During the conversation, the highest old ancestor quickly gathered his strength. He kept talking because he was worried that Tianyan would attack him. Yes, heaven doesn't care about this kind of thing. But today, I don't care about heaven. I am here for my empire. I am here to kill you. Tianyan said coldly. Haha, you want to be a hero? Sooner or later, you will die in the hands of your own people. The highest old ancestor sneered. I don't want to be a hero. I am just responsible for my empire. Tianyan grinned. He is doing this for Yi Qingxian and the others who have been supporting him. He can't let them down. Exchange. Evil Spirits Set. Chapter 599. Ding. Successfully exchanged the Evil Spirit Set and recycled the Evil Dragon Set. Another sound rang out. The Evil Dragon Equipment Set from before had been retrieved, and the Evil Dragon Equipment Set was not left behind. Of course, it didn't matter. The Evil Dragon Set would never be used anyway. As long as he exchanged for stronger equipment, the previous equipment was basically useless. Now the pace of exchanging equipment was much faster than before, and it didn't take long for him to exchange for stronger equipment. This way, he didn't even need to level up, he could just exchange for stronger equipment. Only martial arts were useful for leveling up. Some of the effects were amazing, and leveling up was even more useful. However, it required too much proficiency, so it was difficult to level up. Sometimes he had to change to other martial arts. Evil Spirit Set, level 50. After wearing it, the wearer can transform into evil spirits at any time. All strength increased by 50 times, defense increased by 50 times, and speed increased by 10 times. When entering evil spirits mode, all attacks become long-range attacks, and they can attack anything within a range of 10 miles. They also have a burning effect, and critical hit rate is increased by 20%. The detailed data was listed in front of him again, and they were all extremely powerful. It would definitely attract countless people to fight for them. Originally, he wanted to choose between the two sets, but now it seemed that there was no need for that at all. After the Heavenly Clouds Empire became the first empire, he would receive amazing rewards. At that time he would have 2 million sin points, which was enough to buy 2 sets, so he didn't have to worry about it at all. In a one-on-one fight, the evil spirit set was definitely stronger, so he exchanged for the evil spirit set. In fact, he didn't need to exchange for the evil spirit set to successfully kill the Supreme Old Ancestor, but the Supreme Old Ancestor was too strong now, so it was a bit difficult to kill him. In a situation where their combat power was equal, it was easy to fall into a stalemate. Now that the Supreme Old Ancestor was crazily absorbing blood essence, and if the battle continued, many people would be sucked dry. Although he had nothing to do with these people, it was still a good choice for him to advertise himself. If he wanted to become the first empire, he must have the World Dragon Empire as a foil. Previously, they were all righteous people, but now they were being publicized as evil people, so one could imagine how much it would affect their reputation. It seems like you want to be the hero of your own empire. Then you can go to hell first. When the time comes, I'll send them down to meet a great hero like you. The Supreme Old Ancestor laughed mockingly. He felt that he was determined to win this battle. While they were talking, the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor had already finished accumulating his power. He raised his hand lightly, and countless blood-red lights transformed into blades that wrapped around him. Like a blood-red lotus, it quickly closed in, wanting to completely block him. Each of the blood-red lotuses was filled with murderous intent. Terrifying screams could be heard from within, as if countless vengeful spirits were trapped within. Your dragon god bloodline belongs to me now. The Grand Elder's eyes were bloodshot, filled with greed and viciousness. No matter how strong you are, you can't escape from my bloodthirst formation. It was undeniable that the power of the bloodthirsty array was shocking. The entire World Dragon Empire had set up this array, and everyone's power was mobilized to attack Etianyan. The effect would definitely be shocking. With the appraisal eye, his combat power skyrocketed, and it could soar to 4.2 billion. This combat power didn't mean that it was an offensive one. Sometimes it was a combination of defensive combat power, and it would still have such an amazing effect. Swish! Etianyan suddenly punched the blood-red lotus that was wrapping around him. An extreme beam of light penetrated through and hit the blood-red lotus. With a boom, a flower of blood bloomed, but it didn't penetrate the thick petals. The defensive power is really amazing. This was his strongest punch, which was comparable to 41 combat power, but it was still forcibly blocked. It didn't have any effect at all. It was completely blocked outside like a huge shield, blocking his attack. After careful observation, Etianyan found that there were still traces of absorption. It seemed that a lot of energy had been absorbed, and it still had the ability to absorb. If he was wrapped in it, he would probably be sucked dry. It's useless. Don't struggle like this. Just obediently let me suck you dry. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor sneered, watching Etianyan attack inside. His heart filled with endless pleasure. He liked to see the helpless look in the other party's eyes the most, especially when they were still struggling until they couldn't struggle anymore. This kind of torture was his favorite method of torture. Etianyan quickly flew up, but the speed of the scarlet red lotus was even faster, and it quickly wrapped around him, completely sealing him inside. At this time, there was a big ball of blood in front of everyone. It was blood red, and there was a lot of blood flowing on it. It looked very terrifying. It was unknown how much blood had been consumed to achieve this effect. Presumably, there was an endless amount of blood at the bottom of the Dragon Emperor's capital, like a blood-red ocean. A group of cultivators who were fixed here were filled with despair, unwillingness, and anger. They didn't want to become nutrients for the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. But now there was no other way. They were firmly fixed to the ground and couldn't move. Apart from using their eyes and voices, they couldn't move at all. They could only feel the blood in their body being extracted little by little. According to this situation, it wouldn't take long for them to be completely drained. Are we going to die? Scum. I didn't expect that the people we supported turned out to be evil cultivators. Wrong extermination. I heard that there is a sect that has been capturing people. Is it controlled by the World Dragon Empire? It's very possible. But it's useless to see their true colors now. The Heavenly Cloud's great emperor is sealed, and there's no way to escape. We thought he was an intruder just now, but now it seems so ridiculous. Is there a savior who can save us? Their eyes were filled with sadness, but there was no other way. In the end, the blood ball completely wrapped around Yi Tianyun's body and began to crazily extract his blood. This was all in the imagination of the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying energy soared into the sky, bringing with it a frighteningly black flame that swept out in all directions. An unending stream of blood quickly ignited and turned into gas that drifted in all directions. What's going on? Chapter 600. Just like that, the unbreakable blood sphere was forcefully broken and ignited by the black flames. The originally indestructible blood sphere was ignited by the black flame. After the blood was quickly burned, it turned into a red blood mist that rushed into the sky, forming a thick blood-colored cloud in the sky. However, the most shocking thing was that the black figure inside the blood sphere just stood there. After the blood sphere gradually dissipated, a dark figure appeared in front of everyone. The figure had a pair of dark wings that spread to the side, and the blood near the wings was ignited. Even the air was ignited. No one knew what kind of flame it was, but it actually ignited such an overbearing and unbreakable blood sphere. Apart from the most eye-catching wings, there was also its huge pitch-black body. Its strong body was incomparably sturdy, and its muscles bulged out, giving people a feeling of great strength. The cultivators watching in front were even more shocked by the appearance. The handsome face had a pair of domineering eyes, and the aura of looking down on the world was revealed. There was also a pitch-black armor covering most of his body. Pitch-black scales stuck tightly to his body, and it was like a soft armor wrapping around him. Under the tight wrapping, it was like a black tights on the body, outlining the explosive power. What is this situation? Great Ancestor was shocked. He couldn't see Yi Tianyun's figure anymore, but instead, he saw a Yi Tianyun that was magnified several times, but this Yi Tianyun had changed a lot. But the most shocking thing was the significant change in aura, and a sense of fear welled up in his heart. He had never felt such a terrifying aura before. It was definitely the first time. He didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be able to transform, and it seemed like this was Yi Tianyun's true body. He wasn't the only one who was shocked. Everyone else thought that Yi Tianyun was dead, but not only was he unscathed, he even became stronger. What kind of power is this? Is the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor really that powerful? Is this his true limit? What kind of bloodline does it have? How can it have such terrifying explosive power? I've never seen this race before. However, this aura is so strong and evil. It's like an evil spirits. Evil spirits? These words are so apt. But as long as we can defeat this Grand Supreme Ancestor, we'll be our God. They didn't care what happened to Yi Tianyun. As long as they could kill the Supreme Old Ancestor and rescue them, nothing else mattered. There were many evil martial arts, but it depended on how they were used. The Supreme Old Ancestor wanted to sacrifice the entire Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital's cultivators. There were at least hundreds of thousands of people, so such a cruel martial art was naturally not welcomed. If it was used to deal with demonic beasts, there would be no problem. So this is the power of the evil spirit's suit. Yi Tianyun felt that his situation was incomparably powerful. Just the stacking of the effects alone was already incomparably shocking. 50 times the strength and defense, in addition to the special burning effect. This was definitely a godly equipment. In terms of grade, it was at least equivalent to the effect of a divine artifact. How could a full set of divine equipment not be powerful? 50 times the strength was just the effect. The intrinsic effect was equally shocking. He compared it with the high-grade sacred artifact set. It was more than 10 times the effect of the sacred artifact set that he had obtained before. Under the crazy blessing of the evil spirit suit, his current combat power had reached a terrifying 6.3 billion. This was an incredible value, an effect that was far from being able to achieve before. However, although it was 50 times the strength, the crazy damage mode could not be stacked on top of this. The crazy damage mode would only change according to the base and had nothing to do with the equipment. If the equipment was counted, it would undoubtedly be a very heaven-defying effect. Not to mention other equipment. Just by relying on the equipment to stack the effect of 16 times, It was equivalent to the effect of 16 sets of equipment. Wasn't this equivalent to killing gods? In fact, of course, it wasn't that heaven-defying. It was already very terrifying to be able to stack the most basic value by 16 times. Moreover, this set of equipment could increase his combat power by almost 2 billion. Who could compare to him? It's time to end it. Tianyan turned his gaze and looked at the supreme old ancestor not far away, causing the other party's breathing to stop, as if it was difficult to breathe. Die for me. The supreme old ancestor didn't sit still and wait for death. He quickly raised his hand and attacked. Countless blood arrows shot out, coming from all directions, and their speed was getting stronger and stronger. It's meaningless. Tianyan gently raised his hand, and the surrounding void was instantly ignited. Countless blood arrows that pierced through were burned into gas. Not to mention hurting him, they couldn't even get close to him. After transforming into the evil spirits, he had extremely terrifying long-range attacks that could attack within a range of 10 miles. To put it bluntly, he could attack anywhere at will with a gentle raise of his hand. However, it wasn't a group attack, and he could only attack individually. The blood arrows that surrounded him were different. His body was surrounded by flames, so how could they get close to him? This power. The supreme old ancestor's expression changed, but he didn't give up and roared, "Bloodthirsty demon sword." He stretched out his hand, and a large amount of blood turned into an extremely long sword. Soon, a long sword that looked like a ruby solidified in his palm. As soon as he held it in his palm, he slashed it down at Tianyan. Endless blood gushed out from the bottom of the World Dragon Empire's capital, and madly strengthened the blood sword. The blood sword that slashed down was quickly strengthened, and lengthened. In the blink of an eye, it was dozens of feet long, and a ruthless slash was enough to split mountains and split the earth. I said it's meaningless. Tianyan lifted his foot, and everyone only saw a black light flash past. The speed was too fast, and no one could see how he moved. With 10 times the speed, who could see his movement? Bang, bang, bang. Wherever the black light passed, the evil blood sword would be smashed into pieces like a fragile piece of ice, shattering with a single hit. Before the supreme old ancestor could react, the huge black body had already arrived in front of him, and his pitch-black eyes stared at him. Your power is too evil. The supreme old ancestor was so stunned that he didn't know what to do. Instead, he said something funny. He planned to sacrifice hundreds of thousands of cultivators to deal with Tianyan. But now he said that Tianyan was evil. No matter how evil he is, he won't sacrifice his own people. Tianyan sneered, and his huge palm had already reached out, piercing through the supreme old ancestor's body. Then, black flames quickly burned him, and he was quickly ignited. Chapter 601. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor felt that his body was filled with flames, which quickly ignited his body and burned inch by inch. Intense pain came from the place where he was attacked, and then it quickly spread to the surroundings. This kind of pain was simply burning his soul, inch by inch, making him feel incomparable pain. More than that, the fear of death came from here. Let go, let go. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor stretched out his hand and slapped Tianyan's body, but after this heavy slap, a terrifying force bounced back, causing him endless pain. Even if he was attacked, he could still use some of his strength, but under the attack, it was as if he had attacked the hardest thing in the world, almost crippling his hand. Don't worry, I won't let you die so quickly. I will let you feel the pain of death bit by bit. Tianyan sneered. He had already cut off the connection between the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor and the World Dragon Imperial Capital. The Great Formation returned to its original state, and many cultivators regained their freedom. After recovering, the cultivators sat on the ground, their bodies drenched in sweat, as if they had just been fished out of the water. A small part of their blood essence had been extracted, but it did not damage their foundation, so there was no problem. They continued to look up at Tianyan, their eyes filled with gratitude, but there were more complicated looks in their eyes. Regret surged from the bottom of their hearts. The enemy that they had always rejected was actually their savior. This made them speechless, and they had even mocked Tianyan a lot. They were really worried that Tianyin would not save them, and when they were sucked dry bit by bit, he would not need to care about them at all. They only had themselves to blame. Tianyin did not do this, and he still chose to save them, which made them feel the most complicated. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor shouted hysterically. It was not easy for him to reach this level, and he was sitting above tens of thousands of people. Now that he was about to turn into a pile of ashes and dissipate in the air, he was very unwilling to see this result. Tianyin said coldly, "Originally, your World Dragon Empire would have been able to keep your position. Who would have thought that you would choose to attack my imperial capital? Don't blame me for being merciless." A hint of regret appeared in the eyes of the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor, but there was even more resentment. All of this was caused by his descendants. Otherwise, how could he have fallen to such a state? "I'll give you anything. Please let me go. I have a lot of treasures. I'll give you anything. I'm willing to make you the emperor of this place." The Supreme Old Ancestor started to beg for mercy. The fear and desire to live surged in his heart, causing him to beg for mercy. He did not want to die here. "You think I'm lacking something that belongs to you?" Tianyin sneered. "If you're dead, what wouldn't be mine?" No, you can't do this. I have a secret to tell you. It's definitely a top-grade artifact." Not interested. Tianyin wouldn't let him go. He wouldn't even know when he would be stabbed in the back. The World Dragon Empire was destroyed by him, and his descendants were killed by him. It would be a miracle if the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor was willing to let him go. Then the flame in his hand quickly burned and accelerated the speed of devouring the body of the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. Actually, this flame was the inextinguishable flame, but it was a strengthened version of the inextinguishable flame, with an additional layer of the heretic god's power. If one were to touch it, they would not be able to escape. They would continue burning, never to be extinguished. "I'm willing to be your slave. I'm willing to do anything. No matter what the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor said, Tianyin was unmoved. In the end, the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor turned into a pile of ashes and scattered from the sky. The ashes didn't even fall to the ground. Ding. Successfully killed the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. Reward: 800 million EXP 50. 000 Crazy Point 10. 000 SPS. Obtain True Dragon Divine Art. Bloodthirsty Mad Demon Art. Dragon God Bloodline 5th Grade. Golden Dragon Divine Armor, High Grade Sacred Tool. Golden Dragon Boots, High Grade Sacred Tool. Heaven World Secret Treasure Map Rare. Ding. Successfully killed the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. Reward: 300 million EXP 10. 000 Crazy Point 5. 000 SPS. 2 Super Enhanced Lottery Roulette Tickets. 2 notifications popped up, which made Tianyin's eyes lit up. Finally, there was a reward for killing the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor was a Saint King stage cultivator. If there was no reward for killing the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor, it would be unreasonable. With the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor turned into ashes, everything was over. The strongest cultivator was dead, and the rest was meaningless. Moreover, most of them felt like they survived a disaster. How could they still have the heart to take revenge? It's already good enough that they didn't kneel down and thank him. Dead. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor is finally dead. Is he finally dead? We're fine. We're fine. Is he our savior? They kneeled on the ground one by one, and they didn't dare to look at Tianyin. Most of them felt guilty, so they didn't dare to look at Tianyin, so as not to provoke his anger. Tianyin didn't bother to argue with them. After looking around, he said coldly, "From today onwards, the World Dragon Empire will be taken over by our Heavenly Clouds Empire. Especially the World Dragon Imperial Capital. We must destroy it." The bloodthirsty Great Array was everywhere, and it must be completely destroyed. The Great Array here was deeply rooted in the ground, so it must be uprooted. Otherwise, there was no way to destroy it. In this case, the only way was to destroy the entire World Dragon Imperial Capital. Moreover, Tianyin wouldn't leave the World Dragon Imperial Capital as his own. Yes. Most of them agreed with Yi Tianyun's decision to destroy the entire World Dragon Imperial capital. This place was their nightmare, and they didn't dare to stay here any longer. They were worried that if they stayed here any longer, their blood essence would be completely drained. Although the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor was dead, it would still be troublesome if someone could control the World Dragon Imperial capital. The news of the war quickly spread out, and many empires' factions paid attention to it. After the war ended, all the empires in the mortal world were shocked. All the empires panicked because they made a stupid decision to support the World Dragon Empire. The Heavenly Clouds Empire won. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor was dumbfounded. All the ministers were dumbfounded. The old man who accompanied the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor before was also dumbfounded. They thought that Yi Tianyun was too impulsive, but now it seems that it wasn't Yi Tianyun who was too impulsive, but they had greatly underestimated Yi Tianyun's power. Yi Tianyun's power was enough to destroy all empires. Great Emperor, I'm afraid we have to visit him in person, the old man said with a wry smile. Chapter 602. After the great battle ended, it was like a wildfire that spread rapidly in all directions, causing all the great emperors of the empires to panic. Those who didn't support the Heavenly Clouds Empire were terrified, but those who supported the great emperor were laughing their heads off. If it weren't for the news from the front lines, they wouldn't have believed that the Heavenly Clouds Empire would win. The key was that the Heavenly Clouds Empire could overthrow the entire World Dragon Empire with just a great emperor. 5 Spirit King stage powerhouses, 2 Imperial Divine Dragons, and a Grand Supreme Old Ancestor were all killed. The World Dragon Empire was reduced to a kingdom without any Spirit King stage powerhouses, which meant that the World Dragon Empire had completely collapsed. What one country with 5 kings? Right now, the Heavenly Cloud Empire only needed 1 king to sweep through the entire mortal world and be invincible. Quick! Go to the Heavenly Clouds Empire and bring the best treasures. It's over. I don't know how the Heavenly Clouds Empire will treat us this time. Why is the Heavenly Clouds Empire so strong? How did he cultivate? This is impossible. How did he win? The great emperors of the empires were stunned, and some of them even slapped themselves in the face, wondering if they were dreaming. In fact, they weren't dreaming, but the World Dragon Empire was really destroyed. It wasn't just a simple destruction, but a complete collapse. After the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor's death was spread out, everyone chose to leave. Who would have thought that the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor would be so insidious as to build a bloodthirsty great array under the World Dragon Empire's capital? After the Heavenly Clouds Empire excavated the World Dragon Empire, they found countless corpses buried under the World Dragon Empire. After all, the World Dragon Empire was destroyed, and no one spoke up for it anymore. There were still survivors of the Netherworld Empire, and they supported the Netherworld Empire's actions. Even if the Netherworld Empire killed 1 million people, they would still support it. Most of the people who joined the World Dragon Empire were righteous people, but they were deceived by the World Dragon Empire, so they quickly left after knowing the truth. Yi Tianyun took over all the territories of the World Dragon Empire, and no one dared to say anything. They could only watch him take over all the territories. Even though the comprehensive strength of the Heavenly Clouds Empire wasn't as good as the other empires, they only had 1 Spirit King stage powerhouse, Yi Tianyun. Void Spirit stage experts were relatively few, but no one dared to make a move. The reason was simple. Yi Tianyun alone was enough to resist the power of an entire nation. No matter how many Spirit King stage cultivators there were, they wouldn't feel any pressure at all. This was a truly terrifying existence. There was no need for a large number of experts, just him alone was enough. Because of this, Yi Tianyun gained a nickname. Everyone called him the Invincible Yi. He was really invincible in the mortal world. Even the most powerful World Dragon Empire was crushed. Which empire could resist him? Unless all the forces of the empire gathered together, how could they resist? Even if they gathered all the empires to fight against Yi Tianyun, none of them were willing to do so. After all, if they really did that, what would be the benefit of fighting to the death? Great Emperor, the great emperors of many empires have come to pay a personal visit. A guard rushed in from outside, his face flushed with excitement. Although he wasn't here to greet him, he was just as excited. When Yi Tianyan ascended to the throne, all of them didn't think highly of Yi Tianyan, so they all chose to leave. But now all of them came here with a lot of treasures. This undoubtedly made the entire Heavenly Clouds Empire proud. They didn't think highly of Yi Tianyan before, but now they all came to worship him. Well, I'm busy. Tell them to wait outside. Yi Tianyan glanced at the guard and didn't let him introduce all the great emperors. Yes, great emperor. The guard nodded and hurried out of the hall. Outside the hall, all the great emperors were waiting outside. When they saw the guard coming out, they all wanted to come in and greet Yi Tianyan. Unexpectedly, the guard came out and said, "The great emperor is busy. He asked you to wait outside." When he said these words, he felt incomparably excited. He had never thought that he could speak like this. The great emperors were very dissatisfied, but they only complained in their hearts. They didn't dare to say it out loud. Now that Yi Tianyan was equal to the World Dragon Great Emperor, who dared to disrespect the World Dragon Empire? Now that the Heavenly Clouds Empire had replaced him, it was equal to the First Empire. Sigh, one wrong step, and then another. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor shook his head. If he was given another chance, he would still choose the World Dragon Great Emperor. Who would have thought that Yi Tianyan was so powerful? Even the cultivators in the Heavenly Clouds Empire couldn't believe it. Isn't this Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor too arrogant? He actually let so many great emperors wait here. Isn't he afraid of us joining forces to attack him? If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. The Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor is arrogant, but if you can defeat the World Dragon Empire alone, you can be as arrogant. That's right. If I don't like you, I will overthrow you directly. Join forces to attack him. If you want to die, don't blame me. Why do we have to risk our lives against him? He can kill 5 kings by himself. If we risk our lives and kill him, we'll be crippled. At that time, we'll be reduced to a 3rd-grade force, let alone an empire. One by one, they glared at one of the great emperors and chose to leave his position. They didn't dare to approach him and isolate him. The great emperor was embarrassed, and the ministers next to him were scared. They didn't expect that their great emperor would say such a thing. If they angered Yi Tianyan, they were afraid that their empire would be overthrown. I just said it casually. The great emperor didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Many of the great emperors present hadn't seen Yi Tianyan's power. But since the World Dragon Empire was overthrown, who would dare to say a word? Even if Yi Tianyan didn't do it, he still had someone to help him. Who would dare to say anything? Even if they complained in their hearts, they still chose to wait outside. Even the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor had to wait outside, except for some great emperors who supported the Heavenly Clouds Empire. The great emperors who supported the Heavenly Clouds Empire stayed in the main hall, tasting wine and chatting happily. Compared to the outside, it was a world of difference. Even the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor had to wait outside, which made them very excited. It could be said that they bet on the right treasure. They supported Yi Tianyan just because they were hot-blooded. They didn't want to submit to the World Dragon Empire. Everyone knew that the World Dragon Empire wanted all the empires to obey them. Chapter 603. The World Dragon Empire was extremely domineering, but many empires could only obey. Now the Heavenly Clouds Empire replaced the number 1 empire, and it was bound to show its strength to those who didn't support it. Letting bygones be bygones? That was all bullshit. Unless one's strength was insufficient, there was no such thing as letting bygones be bygones. In reality, they were just swallowing the humiliation. No one could swallow this humiliation. When Yi Tianyan ascended to the throne, so many people didn't give him face, so who would be happy? Letting them wait outside was giving them a chance. If it was the Netherworld Empire, they would have already killed them one by one. As long as the empires were slightly weaker, they would definitely be destroyed by the Netherworld Empire. However, the Netherworld Empire didn't have this kind of strength. Although the Netherworld Empire was at least ranked in the top 5, or even the top 3, its strength was still average. The reason was simple: he had the heavenly Netherworld divine nation behind him. Many empires knew the power behind the Netherworld Empire. So some people ranked it as the top 5 or even the top 3. This kind of strength ranking was actually made by some big forces, not by some rogue cultivators. The big forces publicized it like this. It was nothing more than giving face to the heavenly Netherworld divine nation. The passage couldn't allow a large number of experts to come up, but if they really wanted to come up, it wouldn't be a problem to pay a price. This was the reason why many empires didn't want to offend the Netherworld Empire. The Netherworld Empire was extremely cruel, but it had the heavenly Netherworld divine nation behind it, who knew that the Heavenly Clouds Empire was destroyed, but it was still peaceful now, which was really shocking. Maybe the Netherworld divine nation would spend a lot of effort to overthrow the Heavenly Clouds Empire, but now, they had to bow their heads. Therefore they could only stay outside. Even if they had complaints, they didn't dare to leave, because if they left, they would really be finished. A group of great emperors waited outside, while Yi Tianyan studied the Sin Mall. He found that the evil dragon set had been recycled. This was something he didn't expect. Although it was useless, he could only exchange it for the evil spirit set after recycling it. In the Sin Mall, there was still the evil dragon set, and the price didn't change, but whoever bought it would be a fool. The most eye-catching thing was the evil dragon set. After purchasing the evil spirits equipment set, a brand new equipment set appeared above the higher grade equipment set. The evil god equipment set. Demon god equipment set. Level 80 requirement. Once equipped, the wearer can transform into a demon god at any time. All strength, defense, and speed are increased by 200 times. When he entered demon god mode, all of his attacks became ranged attacks, and he could attack anything within 1,000 li. Furthermore, his attacks had a burning effect, and his critical hit rate was increased by 50%. Consumes 100,000 crazy points per minute. Price 50 million sim points. There weren't many highlights. In fact, it was just a super enhanced version. Overall, there weren't any changes. It was just that every aspect had been greatly improved. Although the change wasn't huge, it was already quite shocking to be able to increase by such a terrifying amount. However, the price was even more eye-catching. It was a full 50 million sim points. He thought that he would only need 10 million sim points to buy it. Who would have thought that it would require a total of 50 million sim points? It was already difficult to earn 50 million crazy points, let alone 50 million sim points. The difficulty of earning crazy points far exceeded the speed of earning crazy points. It's not bad, but the price is too expensive. It consumes 100,000 crazy points per minute. This consumption is also quite high. Yi Tianyan shook his head. The consumption of crazy points has increased. Whether it was the evil dragon set or the evil spirit set, the transformation would consume crazy points. It's just that the value was too small. He didn't even bother to pay attention to it. For example, when the evil spirit set transformed into the evil spirits, it consumes 10,000 crazy points per minute, which was still bearable. Now it became 100,000 crazy points in a blink of an eye, which was a full increase of 10 times, but the price was still very high. But there was one thing to pay attention to, that is level 80. At level 80 he would be a peak Saint King. At that time, 100,000 crazy points should be a piece of cake for him. As long as the effect didn't last for a long time, the consumption was nothing. It will take a long time to exchange for it. Now that most of the power of the evil spirit set has not been used, how can I use the evil spirit set? Yi Tianyan smiled. After exchanging for the evil spirit set, even an ordinary god king would have to take a detour in front of him. Now that he was at the first layer of Spirit King stage, with the evil spirit set he would be able to crush ordinary Saint King stage experts, not to mention the crazy mode. It's not a problem to fight above my level. Yi Tianyan's eyes flashed. The effect was too overbearing. The crazy mode would allow him to kill any god. Let's see the lottery. I can't waste this opportunity. Yi Tianyan didn't worry about the great emperor outside. He continued to stay in the hall and draw the lottery. He stretched out his hand, and a wheel appeared in the void. Soon it began to spin, and he immediately activated Luck Aura to see what he could get this time. Soon the needle stopped and finally stopped on the consumable item. What the hell? Yi Tianyan was stunned. He already used luck aura, but the consumable item still appeared? Tianyan was really puzzled. Did he use his luck aura and character points in vain? Dong. Then a box rolled down from the inside and fell into the inventory. Looking at the item, Tianyan felt a little depressed. Forget it, it's just a gift anyway. Tianyan could only comfort himself and open the wooden box, and soon, an item appeared in front of him. Teleportation Godstone Rare. Teleportation Godstone. Can set coordinates at will up to 5 locations, and can be teleported instantly. Can only be used 10 times at most. Good stuff. Tianyan slapped his thigh and jumped up from the chair. He was very excited. This thing was more precious than any weapon. He really needed this type of treasure to be able to teleport to any place at will. As long as he set the coordinates, he can directly teleport back next time. He doesn't need to run around. It's quite easy for him to provide support. Especially for the mortal realm, heaven realm, and ghost realm. If his cultivation was too high, it would be relatively difficult for him to travel. As long as he set the coordinates in the mortal realm, he can come back instantly. There is no need to worry about this aspect. This is the same as the Divine General Summoning Order. He can teleport instantly. It's quite easy. It's a pity that it can only be used for Divine Generals, and he can only fly. Looks like it's not that my luck is too bad. It's that this thing is equivalent to a divine artifact. Chapter 604. Teleportation Godstone is definitely a good thing. Not to mention the underworld, even Heaven Realm won't be a problem with it. When the time comes, it won't be difficult at all. Looking at the teleportation Godstone in the shop, the price is as high as 15 million crazy points. This is really expensive. If I really need it, I will have to pay 15 million crazy points. This is really convenient. No other teleportation formation is as convenient as this one. Not to mention the location is relatively fixed. The main thing is that it is extremely difficult to travel. Even he can't come up, so this teleportation Godstone is very necessary. Let's try again. Consumables are not useless after all. Tianyan shook his head. He was too prejudiced before. He had drawn several consumables before, but they were relatively ordinary, so he was quite depressed. Thinking about it carefully, the higher level lottery roulette, even the consumables are very amazing, so there is no need to care about it. Again. He still has one lottery roulette left. He immediately continued to the next lottery roulette, and soon the lottery roulette spun quickly. Luck aura is also activated. Although the lottery roulette is good, it is another matter whether it can be rarer or not. So he activated luck aura, and soon the needle stopped, pointing to the jewelry type. Jewelry type. Tianyan's eyes lit up. The jewelry type that was just added before. I don't know what will appear. Ding dong. Then a box rolled down. He immediately opened the box, and soon a necklace appeared in front of him. Desolate Ancient Necklace. Desolate Ancient Necklace. One of the Desolate Ancient set, Ancient Level Treasure. Wearing it increases strength by 15 times, speed by 10 times, defense by 10 times. Use 8,000 crazy points to cast Desolate Ancient Nothingness, turning the surroundings into nothingness, destroying everything within a range of 500 meters. Good stuff. Tianyan's eyes lit up. Sure enough, with such a high luck value, the item must be good. This is also a high-level ancient level. If you really want to define this ancient level, it is basically the same as a divine tool, but it is a bit more unique than a divine tool. That is, it has more effects, and it is a set. This is the same as the previous Tyrant Stone Tablet. Both belong to the ancient level treasure, and have more effects. The difference between Desolate Ancient Necklace and Ancient Level Necklace is that it is a set. It's a 5-piece set. After taking a closer look, Tianyan was shocked once again. He thought it was a 3-piece set. Who knew it was a 5-piece set? They were a necklace, a bracelet, a ring, an armor, and a pair of boots. It was not easy to collect all 5 pieces of the suit. It seemed that he could only obtain them through the lottery. Even if he could succeed every time, he would need to spend tens of millions of crazy points. The consumption of crazy points was too much. Of course, now that he had the evil spirit set, this could be put aside for the time being. Or perhaps he could just gather the 3 pieces of the set. There was no need to gather the 5 pieces. The evil spirit's set consisted of boots and clothes, so it was quite flexible. After observing it for a while, Itianyan nodded his head and put on the desolate ancient necklace. From the outside it looked like a string of sand hanging on the neck. It looked too simple and unadorned, without any highlights. There was nothing wrong with the man wearing the necklace. In addition, there were no highlights, so no one would notice it. Of course, he could conceal himself as long as he didn't show himself. It's almost time. Itianyan stood up. Since the lottery was done, it was time for the great emperors outside to come in. Immediately, he turned his head and looked at the guard next to him, waved his hand and said, "Go, let them in." Yes. The guard hurriedly ran out and announced to the outside that Itianyan summoned them. After the great emperors outside received the announcement, they all rushed in from outside. As soon as they came in, a great emperor rushed up and presented a treasure. "I am the great emperor of Leishing Empire. Greet the heavenly clouds, great emperor. This time we came to visit, please forgive us. In order to celebrate the great emperor's ascension to the throne, I specially brought 1,000-year blood ginseng to congratulate you." He took out a jade box and gently opened it. 1,000-year blood ginseng was lying inside, and a thick blood aura was released, making people feel very comfortable. The great emperor on the side squinted his eyes. The great emperor of Leishing Empire was really generous. Even the great emperors wouldn't be willing to use this thing casually. Now that he brought it as a congratulatory gift, it was really a big deal. Leishing Great Emperor was also distressed, but he could only do this. Otherwise, the empire would be gone, and the 1,000-year blood ginseng would be fake. If it was before, when Itianyan ascended to the throne, he would just give a small gift casually. But now he could only give a big gift, and if he gave a small gift he would be finished. Before, it was a newly established empire, so he could only give a little ordinary gift. But now it was vaguely the #1 empire, so who would dare to neglect it? "Well, put it down." Itianyan nodded with a blank expression. Leishing Great Emperor was nervous, but he could only put down the blood ginseng and sit on the side. Then the other great emperors presented their treasures one after another, and each one was better than the previous one. They took out all their treasures and didn't dare to hide anything. At this time, it was the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor's turn, but he didn't completely put down his pride. Instead, he smiled and congratulated. "In order to congratulate the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor, I brought a heavenly star grass, which represents the prosperity of the Heavenly Cloud's empire like the stars in the sky." When the many great emperors saw the heavenly star grass, they immediately gasped. It wasn't that this thing was too precious, but it was too ordinary. At most, it was a grade 4 spirit herb, but Leishing Great Emperor took it out as a congratulatory gift. Although it sounded nice, but the gift was too bad. Just any gift from Leishing Great Emperor could easily beat this thing. Itianyan narrowed his eyes and looked at the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. As expected of the second-ranked empire, his aura was not small. Although they were willing to put down their pride, it was just an equal relationship, not to the point of bowing down to Itianyan. As the second-ranked empire, even when the World Dragon Empire was still there, they didn't bow down to Itianyan. Even now, in front of Itianyan, they didn't choose to bow down. "Well, thank you for your kindness, Heaven Primordial Great Emperor." Itianyan didn't care. As long as they didn't provoke him, then everything would be fine. Immediately, the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor took a seat, and one by one, after contributing their treasures. The people present included all the great emperors who came to visit, and the worst one was a third-grade faction, and it was a top-notch one. The weaker third-grade faction couldn't come at all. The Empyrean Pole-Sex people who were sitting on the side were excited when they saw this scene. They never imagined that they would see such a scene. With so many great emperors coming to flatter their Heavenly Cloud's empire, it was just a small third-grade faction before. Chapter 605. Everyone in the Heavenly Cloud's empire didn't expect such a glorious scene. They didn't expect such a scene at all. Now that it was realized, everyone was excited. This was something they couldn't achieve. In their opinion, it was amazing to reach the peak of the third-grade faction. Especially the Empyrean Terminus sect. They felt that they should burn incense if they could reach the peak of the third-grade faction. Everyone's eyes were focused on Yi Tianyan. If it weren't for Yi Tianyan, they would have been wiped out at any time. Everyone, don't be too nervous. Although I attacked the World Dragon Empire, it was the World Dragon Empire that attacked me. I've always been a person who doesn't offend me. As long as you don't provoke me, I won't attack you. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. The great emperors were overjoyed. It seemed that the new great emperor was still very broad-minded. He didn't intend to pursue the previous situation. But Yi Tianyan didn't wait for them to be happy for too long, he added. That being said, everyone here, I will remember the choices you made before. Everyone's heart went cold as if a basin of cold water was poured over their heads. Especially the sentence that Yi Tianyan said. It made their hearts tremble. Did Yi Tianyan want to do something to them? Sure enough, things aren't that simple. This new great emperor wants to establish his prestige. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor slowly sipped his fragrant tea. His expression was relatively indifferent. Although the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor wasn't as powerful as the World Dragon Empire, he wasn't someone who could be easily bullied. He just wanted to coexist peacefully, and didn't want to cause any disputes. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor's visit to witness Yi Tianyan's ascension to the throne was the best proof. Even the second-ranked empire came to pay a visit. That's for sure. If we were in Yi Tianyan's shoes, we would do the same. It's very scary when we make the wrong choice. The old man next to him shook his head. Whether it was the third-grade faction or the empire faction, they were very clear about this. For example, the princes who were about to ascend the throne would fight among themselves. As for which prince the ministers chose to support, it was very important. If they chose the wrong prince, they could imagine the consequences. I have received your kind intentions. Thank you very much for your gifts. But from now on, as long as you know your place, I won't say anything more. If you provoke me or hurt my people, no matter what empire you are from, you will end up like the World Dragon Empire. Yi Tianyan's eyes turned cold, and the aura of an expert spread out in all directions. Many great sovereigns were shocked, and the terrifying aura made their hearts sink. Those with weaker cultivations shivered, and their backs were drenched in cold sweat. Just this aura alone was enough to make them feel pressured. If they really made a move, what would it feel like? Spirit King Stage. When the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor sensed this aura, he immediately estimated the approximate cultivation level, which made him feel somewhat puzzled. A Spirit King Stage cultivator could overthrow the World Dragon Empire? However, according to the information provided by the spies in front of him, it seemed that he had used some kind of ultimate art or some kind of treasure to immediately possess the power to slay gods. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, it definitely wasn't ordinary for it to be able to unleash the power to kill a grand supreme old ancestor. I wonder what kind of treasure it is. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor's eyes flashed with curiosity, but this was not something he could touch. He didn't know how low Yi Tianyan's bottom line was, and he didn't know what the situation was, so he didn't dare to ask at will. This was originally Yi Tianyan's trump card, so how could he casually say it out? At least he wouldn't say it out loud, even to the people closest to him. Yes, we won't do anything, and we will stay here obediently. Yes, we will treat the cultivators of the Heavenly Clouds Empire as distinguished guests. One by one, they quickly nodded to show their loyalty, expressing that they wouldn't act recklessly, let alone have any selfishness. Looking at the nodding and bowing expression, Yi Tianyan didn't feel the slightest bit of arrogance in his heart. This was what strength brought to him. If he didn't have strength, everything would be nonsense. Immediately afterward, Yi Tianyan gently raised his hand, and several precious treasures fell in front of the great emperors who had chosen to support him. This scene stunned many people. This is your reward. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Thank you, Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. They were very grateful. They were all envious of these treasures before, but they didn't dare to accept them. Who knew that in the blink of an eye, they would be placed in front of them? The imperial forces who chose to support Yi Tianyan were relatively weak, so these treasures were definitely the type of national treasure for them. Now that they were given so many treasures, how could they not be excited? The other empires looked at each other, and their eyes were full of complex emotions. This was really a clear reward and punishment. Those who chose to support Eteonian immediately got the benefits. This new great emperor is a bit interesting. He is quite broad-minded, otherwise it would be troublesome. The heaven primordial great emperor nodded. He came here to see Eteonian's character. If he was an absolute tyrant, they would have to think twice about the situation. Well, I won't say anything else. Eteonian smiled and said, then the banquet officially begins. Let's enjoy today. Eteonian clapped his hands and signaled the already prepared dancers to come on the stage to perform, and the banquet officially began. However, the great emperors were not in the mood to watch. Fortunately, Eteonian was broad-minded, otherwise, they would definitely be finished. If it was the World Dragon Empire, even if they didn't die, they would be ruthlessly skinned. The banquet ended quickly, and most of the great emperors were worried that Eteonian would suddenly change his mind and attack them. But after the banquet ended, they realized that they were overthinking things. Is the Heavenly Clouds Empire going to become the strongest empire? Isn't that for sure? Even the World Dragon Empire was destroyed, so how could we be the weakest? As long as the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor is still alive, no one would dare to provoke them at will. Fortunately, they didn't pursue it. As long as they don't pursue it, the rest doesn't matter. Each of the great emperors acknowledged the status of the Heavenly Clouds Empire in their hearts, but more importantly, they acknowledged the power of Eteonian. The Heavenly Clouds Empire didn't have much power, and the focus was on Eteonian. After one by one left, a new message finally popped up in Eteonian's mind. Chapter 606. The main quest was finally completed, and all the rewards popped up at once. It was the most amazing reward he had ever received. He had to admit that the reward of the main quest was the most amazing. Ding! Congratulations to player Eteonian for successfully breaking through to second layer Spirit King stage. Ding! Successfully accepted the main quest Find Shuiyun. Reward, 300 million EXP 100. 000 crazy points. 5 super lottery roulette tickets. Then a new main quest popped up, and it surprised him. He didn't expect the main quest to ask him to find Shuiyun. He originally planned to look for Shuiyun no matter what the situation of the main quest is. Now that his cultivation was high enough, and the situation in the mortal world had stabilized, plus he had the teleportation divine stone, he didn't feel any pressure at all. He could come back at any time, so he didn't have to worry about being attacked by the heavenly netherworld divine nation. Of course, he would make proper arrangements before leaving. He would not leave immediately. According to his original guess, the next main quest would be to destroy the heavenly netherworld divine nation, but it didn't seem to be the case. Instead, it asked him to find Shuiyun, which was very much in line with his plan. It seems that the system wants me to find my aunt. Eteonian's eyes lit up. It seemed that he had to start preparing for the settlement of the Heavenly Clouds Empire. He would only dare to leave after everything was arranged properly. This place had just experienced a war, and there was a shortage of manpower to manage it, so he had to stay here to prevent other forces from making trouble for him. Of course, he didn't have anything to do with the management, so he left it to Yi Qingxian and the others. For him, having a big fist was enough. In the face of absolute power, any force was nothing. He didn't stay idle, but he started looking for the Divine King's treasure, which was what the people from the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation guessed. There might be a Divine King's treasure in the Heavenly Border Continent, Heavenly Clouds Continent, and even the Earthly Border Continent. As for where it was, even they didn't know. If they knew, they would have already dug it out. It seems that I have to upgrade the appraisal eye. Ding! Successfully deducted 10 million crazy points to upgrade appraisal eye. Ding! Successfully upgraded appraisal eye to level 4. The next level requires 50 million crazy points. Ding! The appraisal eye has been upgraded to level 4, greatly strengthening the effect and range of the appraisal eye. It can now cover any area within 500 miles, instantly collecting all the information of all cultivators, including the area 100 miles underground. It has an extremely powerful penetrating effect, and can penetrate the divine rune shield within the creator's body, including the creator. It can also determine the detailed data of the other party's physique. For example, strength, speed, and other data. Expand the bloodline database. Expand the weapon database. The information popped up quickly. Compared to level 3, there was a world of difference between this and level 3. It felt like an Earth-class martial art was upgraded to a Heaven-class martial art. There was a huge change in its nature. And the area it could detect was even further than before. Even Yi Tianyan was shocked. At first he thought that it was just a small improvement. Who knew that the effect of the improvement would be so shocking? He was quite satisfied with the huge improvement. 10 million crazy points was well spent. It's a pity that I can't upgrade crazy mode. Otherwise, I would have upgraded it a long time ago. Yi Tianyan shook his head. He currently had 50 million crazy points, so upgrading crazy mode wasn't a problem at all. However, he needed to reach the 5th layer of Spirit King stage to upgrade crazy mode, so he had to upgrade Appraisal Eye first. He believed that when he reached the 5th layer of Spirit King stage, he would have enough crazy points to upgrade Appraisal Eye. Here are some preparations and martial arts. Distribute them to everyone. Yi Tianyan took out a storage ring and handed it to Yi Qingxian. Yi Qingxian took the storage ring and checked it a little. She was shocked. These are Heaven-class martial arts and sacred tools? She didn't expect Yi Tianyan to give her so many treasures. Now that her vision has broadened a lot, she knew what kind of shock it would cause if she took out so many treasures. Even the World Dragon Empire didn't have so many martial arts and sacred tools. Yi Tianyan just gave it to her so casually. There were a lot of things in the storage ring. When Yi Tianyan was in the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom, he obtained a lot of weapons and martial arts. Now that there were so many of them, Yi Tianyan decided to use them to strengthen their equipment. Yes, I'll leave them to you. Yi Tianyan looked at Yi Qingshuan's dumbfounded expression and couldn't help but smile. You don't need them? Yi Qingxian asked. Do you think I'll leave nothing behind and give you everything? Yi Tianyan said with a smile. I don't need these things. I just need to strengthen our strength. Now that I am here, no one dares to invade the heavenly cloud empire. When I am not here, you will have to rely on yourselves. Yi Qingxian nodded heavily. She knew this very well, so she didn't let it get to her head. They all knew that they were still far away from the heavenly cloud's empire. If something happened to Yi Tianyan, or if he was trapped, the heavenly cloud's empire would be like a boat in the sea. We will. Is the great emperor going to find Palace Lord sure? Yi Qingxian heard from Yi Tianyan's tone that he was going to leave this place. Well, I'll go after a while. For now, I'll stay here and stabilize this place. Yi Tianyan said. Don't worry, I won't leave so soon. After that, Yi Qingxian went to do other things. She was very busy all day long. The expansion of their forces was too fast, and they couldn't help but be busy. Yi Tianyan, who was the great emperor, was much more relaxed. He immediately flew up and scanned the area with his appraisal eye along the way, easily covering a range of 500 miles. Well, 10,000 gene of Jade Spirit Stone Spirit Vein. This is more than 1,000 gene of Purple Crystal Spirit Vein. Not bad. 10,000 gene of Golden Stone Spirit Vein. Not bad. Yi Tianyan glanced at it. He didn't find any treasures, but he found a lot of rare ores. It was just that the place was quite deep, and it took a lot of effort to dig it down. Ordinary cultivators wouldn't be able to detect it at all. Even Spirit King stage cultivators wouldn't be able to detect it easily. Ordinary Spirit King stage experts could only explore up to 20 or 30 miles underground, and that was already quite good. But Yi Tianyan had the appraisal eye, so he could directly explore 100 miles, which was 5 times more than them. This was the advantage of being able to explore the treasure carefully. In this case, Yi Tianyan didn't believe that he couldn't find the Divine King's supreme treasure. I hope you won't let me down. Hurry up and find it before the heavenly netherworld divine nation. If they find it, it will be troublesome. Chapter 607. Yi Tianyan quickly explored an area. His flying speed wasn't as fast as his exploration speed, so in the blink of an eye, he had already explored an area. The Heavenly Clouds continent was vast, and it still took him a few weeks to explore it completely. He didn't find any God King's supreme treasure, but after exploring most of the areas, he found a lot of mineral veins, which was definitely a lot of wealth. He recorded the coordinates one by one, and when the time came, he would tell Yi Qingxian and the others to send people to mine. He could smelt a lot of weapons, and there were also a lot of jade spirit stones, which could be used for cultivation or weapon forging. A huge empire needed a lot of resources, and it was difficult for him to fill the gap by himself. More cultivators will join the Heavenly Clouds Empire, and the empire's influence will continue to grow. Although the Heavenly Clouds Empire was still very young, Yi Tianyan believed that it wouldn't take too long for it to stand firmly in the mortal world. At that time, he wouldn't need to rely on Yi Tianyan to become the #1 empire faction. The Heavenly Clouds continent is finished. Next is the Heavenly Border continent. Yi Tianyan nodded. While crossing the sea, he also constantly explored the sea, and there were a lot of treasures in the sea. However, it didn't mean much to him, so he didn't spend much effort to fish it up. After arriving at the Heavenly Border continent, Yi Tianyan continued to explore. His speed was not fast nor slow, but it still consumed a lot of energy. But for him, it wasn't a big problem. After a little rest, he could move forward again. After a quick exploration, Yi Tianyan found a remote forest area, and he stopped in the air. He didn't find a God King's supreme treasure here, but he saw 2 acquaintances here. These acquaintances were Yu Shiqian and Zhao Yu, whom he met in Demon Cloud Island a long time ago. At that time, Yu Shiqian reminded him to be careful. The second time he met them was when he was summoned by the Netherworld Empire, and he hadn't seen them since then. If he remembered correctly, these 2 people were from the White Lotus Mansion. The White Lotus Mansion was a good third-grade faction, but because it wasn't a top faction, it didn't even have the opportunity to invite them to his coronation ceremony. Yi Tianyan didn't expect that he would meet them here. However, their situation was not good. The 2 of them were surrounded by 6 people, and their cultivation was above core condensation. The highest cultivation level was Spirit Core 8th level or 9th level. Both of them were only at Spirit Core 3rd level or 3rd level, which was not low, but it was still not as good as the other party. With Yi Tianyan's current cultivation level, he is even more disdainful. These cultivators are like ants to him, he can kill them easily. Miss you, be good and come back with us. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rough. If you get hurt, our young master won't be happy. There was a big mouse mole on his face, which made him even more young Yu of the army. Of this. His appearance was a little wretched, but his cultivation was not low. It was obvious that he came from a decent grade 3 force, not a relatively weak one. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to have so many experts. Eov of the Tianyaf of Empire of Eov of the situation. To be able to casually send out a few Spirit Core stage powerhouses, they must be at least a top 3rd grade force. Were you sent by young Master Shi? We didn't offend you, did we? Yu Shiqian frowned. She held her sword tightly and didn't relax at all. That's right. We haven't seen your young Master Shi many times. Why are you blocking our way? Could it be that you have some ulterior motives? Zhao Yu snorted coldly. She was still as fiery as ever. Hehe, what do you mean by that? We're just simply inviting the 2 of you to our house as guests, and we'll personally escort you there. The wretched man smiled. We don't have time for now. We have to go back to the manor. The manor lord is waiting for us. Yu Shiqian refused. When we have time in the future, we'll come and visit him. After saying that, she wanted to leave with Zhao Yu. However, how could the other party let them go? He quickly stood in front of them. Miss you, I don't want to say it again. If you don't come with us obediently, don't blame me for being rough. The wretched man said coldly. So, does your Demon Sky Mansion want to be enemies with our White Lotus Mansion? Yu Shiqian asked. Enemies? Do you think you're qualified? The wretched man sneered. We have a good relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Last time, our young Master Shi drank a few cups of wine with the Heavenly Clouds Empire. To put it bluntly, if our young Master Shi is not happy, just tell the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor that your White Lotus Mansion still exists. Heavenly Clouds Empire? Yu Shiqian's face changed. If they hadn't heard of the Heavenly Clouds Empire in the mortal world, then they would be too outdated. However, they believed the wretched man's words. The Demon Sky Mansion really went to the Heavenly Clouds imperial capital, but they didn't know whether they had a good relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire or not. But if that was the case, then the White Lotus Mansion was really not strong enough. The Heavenly Clouds Empire could easily send an expert to destroy the White Lotus Mansion. What do you think? As long as you have a good relationship with young Master Shi, I'll introduce you to him. And you'll both be great heroes of the White Lotus Mansion. The wretched man tempted them with a smile. This is a rare opportunity, and it won't come again if you miss it. As long as you serve our young Master Shi well, everything will be fine. Shameless, Yu Shiqian said coldly. We won't go. If you have the ability, just come and try. They still wouldn't obey. They could imagine what would happen in the future. They would be sullied by young Master Shi. Is that so? Then don't blame our young Master Shi for nagging us in the Heavenly Clouds Empire. If your White Lotus Mansion sends someone over, we won't accept it. The wretched man sneered. Our patience is limited. If you don't leave now, not only will we use force, you won't get any benefits. Do you think your White Lotus Mansion can fight against the Heavenly Clouds Empire? This, Yu Shiqian's heart wavered. If the Heavenly Clouds Empire really blamed them, they would become the biggest sinners of the White Lotus Mansion. It wasn't uncommon for the White Lotus Mansion to compromise and offer their people, but they didn't expect it to happen to them. The wretched man sneered. They had to admit that this trick was really useful. They could clearly feel that the other party was wavering. Heavenly Demon Mansion? How come I didn't know that you have a good relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire? At this time, a young man walked over from the side with a cold smile on his face. Chapter 608. The Heavenly Demon Mansion was a top third-grade faction, and its overall strength wasn't weak. If it developed steadily, it was possible for it to become an empire. However, it would take a few years or even decades before it could be transferred to the Heavenly Demon Mansion. In order to become a power of an empire, it was impossible to establish it without a powerful divine rune master and a powerful emperor. Therefore, every empire had an imperial preceptor, who was mainly a divine rune master. An empire without the protection of a grand array was quite fragile, so having a divine rune master to protect the empire would give them a chance to fight back when they were attacked. At the very least, they would be able to hold on until reinforcements arrived and not collapse immediately. No matter how strong a faction was, even if it was a true dragon, it would have to bow down in front of him. In Yi Tianyun's impression, the Heavenly Demon Mansion did attend his banquet last time, but it wasn't to support him, but to beg for forgiveness. Now that he was being touted as having a good relationship with him, especially that bullshit young Master Shi, it was even more hilarious. Good relationship with him? Even if young Master Shi had 10 guts, he wouldn't dare to talk to him. Was young Master Shi qualified to talk to him? Even young Master Shi's father had to kneel and talk to him, let alone young Master Shi. He might be able to fool those with lower cultivation bases and weaker forces, but he was still able to do it. Who are you? The wretched man hurriedly turned his head and looked at Yi Tianyun. It's you. Zhao Yu pointed at Yi Tianyun and covered her mouth in surprise. Even Yu Shiqian was surprised. They had seen Yi Tianyun's true face a long time ago when the Netherworld Empire summoned him. At that time, the Mansion Lord of the Heaven's Top Mansion was already dead. But no one expected Yi Tianyun to suddenly appear. Although the Heaven's Top Mansion was merged into the Heavenly Clouds Empire, many things were covered up, so many people didn't know the real inside story. For example, most people didn't know that Yi Tianyun was still alive. Me? Am I not the great emperor you are talking about? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Your young master sure has a good relationship with me? How come I don't know about it? You're the great emperor? The vulgar man was stunned. Immediately, a group of people pointed at him and laughed. Shameless boasting. How dare you call yourself the Heavenly Clouds' great emperor? If this news spread to the Heavenly Clouds Empire, you will die without even knowing it. I, Yuan Long, am the person who accompanied young Master Shi to see the heavenly cloud's great emperor. How dare you lie in front of me? Yuanlong proudly raised his head as if he really saw the heavenly cloud's great emperor, but in fact he didn't. He just waited outside the hall and didn't dare to enter. Bragging in front of an ordinary person might still have some credibility, but bragging in front of Yi Tianyan was courting death. Yi Tianyan was sure that he had never seen Yuanlong before. These people were all small fries, but he had an amazing memory. He only needed one look to know if he had seen Yuanlong before. Yu Shiqian and the others looked at Yi Tianyan and said, "Didn't you die before? And you were promoted by Heaven's top mansion to be the mansion lord?" They didn't care about the great emperor at all, but about the situation here. "I won't die that easily." Yi Tianyan looked at them up and down and said with a smile, "Let's go, I will take care of this place." "But they are so strong, if you get involved." Yu Shiqian frowned and shook her head. "Young master, I advise you not to get into trouble. They are from Heavenly Demon Mansion, and they are much stronger than Heaven's top mansion." Obviously, they weren't well informed enough. The news about the Heavenly Demon Mansion didn't spread much. Moreover, they didn't seem to specialize in collecting information, so it was normal that they didn't know most of it. However, the Heavenly Cloud's Empire knew about it. Even a 3-year-old child would know about it. Heavenly Demon Mansion? Yi Tianyan sneered. Even if their young master Shi came here personally, he wouldn't be qualified to carry my shoes. They used my name to deceive others, and it's already good enough that I didn't destroy them. Boy, don't you think our words are useless? Yuanlong reached out and tried to grab Yi Tianyan's head. Yi Tianyan didn't even look at him, he just raised his hand, and Yuanlong was sent flying. Yuanlong crashed into a few trees before he stopped. Yi Tianyan just waved his hand, and a spirit core expert was killed so easily. This scene caused everyone to be dumbfounded. How could such a young man be so powerful? Yu Shiqian and the others were also stunned by this scene. It was unbelievable that Yi Tianyan could kill them with just a wave of his hand. You dare to hurt me. I won't let you go. I will ask young Master Shi to punish you. Yuanlong didn't die, at most his body was fractured and he couldn't move anymore. Punish? Yi Tianyan sneered. I will spare your life, but hurry up and go back to White Lotus Mansion. Tell your mansion lord to come to White Lotus Mansion in person. This emperor has to properly ask him what kind of courage he gave them to actually dare to borrow my reputation to commit crimes. He was really angry. He didn't care about the conflict, but the point was that he had to use his own reputation. If he didn't deal with the other forces, then his reputation would be ruined. It didn't matter if his reputation was ruined. The point was that he didn't do anything, which made him angry. The majesty of the great emperor was inviolable. You are dead. How dare you pretend to be the great emperor? Catch him. Yuanlong shouted and signaled his subordinates to catch Yi Tianyan. The other cultivators quickly took out a fine net. This was not an ordinary net, it was a specially processed net. Ordinary cultivators couldn't break it. No wonder he said he would use force, it was probably to catch Yu Shiqian and Yu Shiqian. But now that he was using it, he wouldn't be able to break it unless he was a high-level spirit core cultivator. They knew that Yi Tianyan wasn't weak, so they didn't dare to approach him at will. They could only quickly outflank him from a distance, and quickly throw the golden net in their hands to cover him. Get out of here. Yi Tianyan waved his hand, and a gust of wind rolled up. Bang, bang, bang. The surrounding cultivators were sent flying, and after smashing through a few trees, they stopped moving. Successfully killed a spirit core cultivator. This time he didn't show any mercy, he killed as many as these bastards came, leaving 1 or 2 to go back and inform the White Lotus Mansion. Too strong. Yu Shiqian and Yu Shiqian's beautiful eyes were wide open, they were shocked by this power. Even the weakest cultivator was a core condensation cultivator, but he killed them with a wave of his hand. Didn't this mean that he was a core transformation cultivator? Chapter 609. Yi Tianyan killed all of them in one move. This time, they were completely scared. Of the 6 people they brought with them, only 2 were left standing. Their legs were trembling, and they turned around and ran to the side. When they picked up their companion who was sent flying, they were immediately shocked. Dead. Dead. These Demon Sky Mansion's disciples were dumbfounded. They thought that Yi Tianyan was just sent flying, but they didn't expect that he would be killed directly. Immediately, they hurriedly ran in the direction of Yuan Long and looked at Yi Tianyan, as they were worried that he would attack them. In fact, they thought too much. Yi Tianyan wasn't interested in attacking them at all. As long as they didn't provoke him, he didn't care. Besides, he still needed someone to go back and report to the Demon Sky Mansion. When the time came, he would ask them about the situation. You actually killed our Demon Sky Mansion's people. You are dead. Even if Yuan Long couldn't move, he was still extremely arrogant. Just because their Demon Sky Mansion was a top third-grade faction and had a relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire, they could ignore everything. Even if Yi Tianyan had a little bit of strength, in their opinion, he would definitely die. Go back and tell your Heavenly Demon Mansion that your mansion master will come and see me personally. Yi Tianyan said coldly. If I go to the Heavenly Demon Mansion in person, it won't be easy. Very well. You will definitely die a horrible death. I will report this matter to the Heavenly Clouds Empire and the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor. Young Master Shi is a friend of the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor. And you still dare to pretend to be the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor? White Lotus Mansion, you are finished. Yuan Long was quickly carried away. He didn't dare to stay here any longer. He was worried that if he stayed here, Yi Tianyan would really kill him. Although the sect would avenge them, it wasn't worth it if they all died. After they all left, Zhao Yu glared at Yi Tianyan and said, "This time we are finished. You provoked the Demon Sky Mansion, but you even provoked the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Our White Lotus Mansion is going to be dragged into this mess." She was panicking. How could she believe that Yi Tianyan was the Heavenly Clouds' Great Emperor? In their opinion, Yi Tianyan didn't have the slightest air of a great emperor. Not to mention a great emperor, even a prefecture master could crush many people to death. Yu Shiqian shouted. Zhao Yu then obediently shut up and stood behind Yu Shiqian. She then said apologetically, "Lord, I'm really sorry. Yu didn't mean it. She was just too nervous. If it wasn't for young master, we would have been taken away by now. Now you should leave quickly. You won't be able to escape punishment if you offend Heavenly Demon Mansion, and the Heavenly Clouds Empire is behind you." Yi Tianyan squinted at them and said with a smile, "You don't believe that I am the great emperor of Heavenly Clouds?" "I don't believe you." Zhao Yu put her hands on her waist and said, "If you are the Heavenly Clouds' great emperor, I would be the empress. Little you, are we really letting him go? Won't we be the scapegoat? This happened because of us, let us deal with it." Yu Shiqian sighed and raised her beautiful eyebrows. She looked pitiful. "Little you." Zhao Yu bit her lip. After thinking clearly, she could only nod her head and say, "If the palace lord wants to send us out, then we'll send you out. It's our fault for provoking someone we shouldn't have. Let's go," Yi Tianyan said indifferently. "Go? Where?" Zhao Yu was confused. "To White Lotus Mansion. Do you think I was joking?" Yi Tianyan said indifferently. "I will go to White Lotus Mansion and wait for Heavenly Demon Mansion to come here. I will deal with this matter properly." "Okay, that's what you said." Zhao Yu is really happy. She is really worried that Yi Tianyan will leave. Then they have to bear all the responsibility. It will be quite troublesome. Yu Shiqian frowned and sighed when she saw Yi Tianyan's indifferent back. Since Yi Tianyan had made up his mind, they could only obey. But in their hearts, they didn't believe that Yi Tianyan was a great emperor. Yi Tianyan didn't care whether they believed him or not. Anyway, they had to deal with this matter, and they would know when the time came. Under the lead of Yu Shiqian and the others, they boarded a carriage and flew towards White Lotus Mansion. They came out to find some spirit herbs, but they didn't expect to run into Heavenly Demon Mansion's cultivators. Yi Tianyan was lying in the carriage, drinking tea leisurely, looking calm and collected. Yu Shiqian and the others were surprised by Yi Tianyan's situation. Did Yi Tianyan have some kind of background or relationship? In their opinion, Yi Tianyan was a bit like a puppet. Wasn't provoking the Netherworld Empire the same as seeking death? But he was still alive, and his cultivation was greatly enhanced, so he should have someone backing him. Young Master Yi, do you have some kind of relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire? Yu Shiqian thought for a moment before asking. After thinking about it, Yi Tianyan didn't have to worry about the Heavenly Demon Mansion's backing. What kind of relationship do I need? I am the Heavenly Clouds Empire's great emperor, who has a stronger relationship than me, Yi Tianyan said with a smile. He's bragging again, Yu Shiqian, don't ask him anymore. He's so secretive and won't say anything. Since he said he can clean it up, let him clean it up. Zhao Yu snorted coldly and didn't bother to pay attention to Yi Tianyan. Suddenly, the carriage became silent, and only the sound of Yi Tianyan sipping tea could be heard. They looked at each other, and didn't know what to say. Soon they returned to the White Lotus residence. The carriage descended from the sky, and they all got off the carriage. This is... Yi Tianyan's eyes narrowed, and his expression froze. As soon as he arrived in this area, he found a strange thing at the bottom of the White Lotus mansion. Along the way, Yi Tianyan didn't stay idle. He had been exploring the surroundings, and when he arrived in this area, he immediately found a special treasure in the White Lotus mansion. This treasure was buried deep under the White Lotus palace, and was sealed by countless divine runes. It was as if a huge boulder had been locked inside. Yi Tianyan's appraisal I couldn't penetrate deep into the White Lotus mansion. One must know that Yi Tianyan could easily penetrate the creator's divine runes, but he couldn't analyze this treasure. It was obvious that there were too many things inside, and the appraisal I couldn't easily analyze it. Either he continued to upgrade the appraisal eye, or he personally observed it. If he observed it from above, he wouldn't be able to see it at all. Interesting. I didn't expect the God King's supreme treasure to be under the White Lotus mansion. Yi Tianyan didn't know if it was a God King's supreme treasure or not, but even his appraisal I couldn't easily analyze it, so he had to take a closer look. Through the appraisal eye, Yi Tianyan also found that the boulder was buried very deep, and there was no connecting passage. Chapter 610. After searching for so long, I finally found it. Yi Tianyan shook his head. He didn't expect to find it under the White Lotus mansion. In this way, he didn't need to go to the earthly border continent to search for it. The process was a bit troublesome and wasted a lot of time. Now that he found it under the White Lotus mansion, whether it was a divine king's supreme treasure or not was another matter. What are you doing here? Why don't you go in? Zhao Yu said unscrupulously. Although Yi Tianyan's strength was good, she felt that he was at most a core transformation stage cultivator. Although his cultivation was not bad, it was still a far cry from the heavenly demon mansions. The main reason was that Yi Tianyan had been standing there for a long time, and they all wanted to go in, but Yi Tianyan was still standing there like a fool. Maybe Gongzi Yi is thinking about something. Yu Shiqian glared at her, hinting her not to be so impulsive. What can he be thinking about? Is he shocked by our White Lotus mansion? Although our White Lotus mansion is not one of the top third-grade forces, our mansion is definitely one of the best, Zhao Yu said with a proud smile. The White Lotus mansion in front of them was magnificent, and covered a very wide area. It could be said that it occupied 10 mountains. Each mountain was home to a disciple of the White Lotus mansion. Different mountains represented different positions. The ones in the middle were the core disciples, the ones in the periphery were the inner disciples, and so on. The spiritual energy here was quite rich, and it was also one of the best places to cultivate in the entire heavenly border continent. The only drawback was that it only recruited women, which was equivalent to a super-enhanced version of the Heavenly Jade sect. The number of disciples here was several times more than the Heavenly Jade sect. There were quite a lot of female disciples, but no matter how many there were, it was not comparable to the mixed recruitment of male and female disciples. However, the White Lotus Mansion had always implemented this rule, which was that they could only recruit female disciples. Other male disciples were not accepted, no matter how talented they were. Because of this, the scale of the White Lotus Mansion could only be considered as medium level. Although the White Lotus Mansion recruited women, it was not the White Lotus Mansion that had the most female cultivators. Instead, it was the top forces that had the most female cultivators. This was because female cultivators still wanted to hook up with a rich husband. If they could find a powerful Tao companion, it would be very beneficial to them. Furthermore, it was not tiring for men and women to work together. The male disciples were quite willing to help them, so why not? The heavenly demon mansion dared to be so arrogant because they couldn't raise their power. Moreover, it was mainly because of the Heavenly Clouds Empire's power that they dared to say such words. The White Lotus Mansion wouldn't be easy to deal with if they really fought. Not bad. Tianyan glanced at it, and didn't say anything else. He had seen grander things than this place. Just the phoenix nest alone was enough to kill a few streets here. Stubborn. Zhao Yu snorted coldly and turned her head to the side, too lazy to bother with him. In her eyes, Tianyan was just bragging. Other than bragging, he was just bragging. This made her very unhappy. Not a single word he said was true. All right, young Master Yi, follow us in. Yu Shiqian thought for a moment and said, Young Master Yi, please don't wander around after we enter. This place originally prohibits men from entering, so please have some self-discipline. There were many places in this place that were inconvenient to enter. Moreover, Tianyan was an outsider, so he couldn't wander around. No, take me to see your mansion, Lord. Tianyan looked at her and said, Do you think you can see our mansion, Lord, whenever you want? Zhao Yu snorted. What's going on? It's so noisy outside. At this time, a beautiful woman came out from the inside with a serious face. Elder Baiyu. When the two of them saw her, they hurriedly greeted her. Tianyan looked up and saw that the woman in front of him was not weak. Her cultivation was at core transformation stage too. Obviously, she was an elder of the White Lotus Mansion. The strongest cultivator in the third grade faction was at most void spirit stage, but it was rare for them to have a void spirit stage expert. Most of them were at core transformation stage. Baiyu looked at Tianyan and found that she couldn't see through his cultivation base, which made her a little confused. May I know who this is? I am the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. I came here to deal with some matters, but now I want to see your mansion, Lord. Tianyan said bluntly. Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor, you? Baiyu's face sank and said, This joke is not funny at all. Who the hell did you two bring back? How dare you say that he is the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor? Do you know what kind of crime this is? Our White Lotus Mansion can't bear it. I knew it. Zhao Yu sighed. Did she bring back a braggart? Yes, who did you two bring back? If he is the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor, then I am the Empress. At this time, a girl on the side came out and sneered at them. Elder Baiyu, I don't know where they brought this wild man from this time. We said that we were going to pick spirit herbs, but they brought back a man. This sounded quite familiar, as Zhao Yu said it before. Tianyan was too young, and he didn't have the aura of an emperor. Who would believe it? Which great emperor would be so young? At least 30 or 40 years old, but the one in front of them was only about 20 years old. Who would believe it? Wei Yun, what do you mean? Zhao Yu's hot personality showed again and she said coldly, What wild man? We were stopped by the people of Demonic Sky Mansion, and then he appeared to help us solve the problem, and then he brought him back. People of Demonic Sky Mansion? Elder Baiyu's eyes turned cold and she asked, Tell me what happened. Immediately, Zhao Yu told the general story, and everyone's eyes focused on Tianyan. They didn't expect him to be so bold as to kill people of Demonic Sky Mansion. Well, you killed people of Demonic Sky Mansion. Elder Baiyu, they made a big mistake. I know the situation of Demonic Sky Mansion very well, and young Master Shi has a really good relationship with the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. This kid must be an imposter, and he wanted to deceive the trust of the two little sisters, so he took action. Who knew that he would provoke Demonic Sky Mansion? Wei Yun added fuel to the fire, and a ruthless look flashed in her eyes. Elder Baiyu's face was gloomy, and this was not a good thing. I think young Master Shi sent people to stop Miss Yu. And it has something to do with you, right? Tianyan looked at her indifferently as if he wanted to see through her. And it seems that you are very familiar with young Master Shi, right? You are an outsider, but you speak for Demonic Sky Mansion. You, what nonsense are you talking about? Wei Yun was like a cat whose tail was stepped on, and she screamed and retorted. On the contrary, you two are fooling around outside. Shut up. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and a murderous intent surged out, instantly penetrating Wei Yun's heart. Chapter 611. Some things should be said, and some things shouldn't be said. Don't you understand? Yi Tianyun was too lazy to care about these juniors. If it weren't for the fact that White Lotus Mansion had no enmity with them, he would have already dug the boulder by force. He gave White Lotus Mansion some face. If they didn't know him, then it was fine. It was useless to use his aura to suppress them. Even if he could defeat them, they wouldn't believe that he was the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Although he could solve these problems easily, he had a good impression of Yu Shiqian. It wasn't a feeling of love, but a feeling of kindness, so he gave her some face. From the beginning, Yu Shiqian paid attention to his situation. And she was also very polite, which was rare. What a strong aura. Elder Baiyu couldn't understand the young man in front of him. He was so young, yet he had such strength, so his background was definitely not simple. However, saying that he was the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor didn't seem credible. Wei Yun couldn't say a word. She was so scared that she couldn't calm down. Just a look from Yi Tianyun made her feel weak all over. She didn't dare to look at Yi Tianyun. The feeling just now was too terrifying, as if she was in a battlefield of slaughter. She felt like she was cut into 7 or 8 pieces. Everything was so real, and she felt like she just came back to life. Little friend, your cultivation is not low. Do you think it's fun to do this? Elder Baiyu was a little unhappy. If you were slandered by others, would you be happy about it? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. I don't want to say anything more. Let me see your mansion master. I have something to tell your mansion master. Elder Baiyu said angrily. You are helping Yu Shiqian, but at the same time, you are provoking Heavenly Demon Mansion and the Heavenly Cloud's empire. You are simply doing bad things with good intentions. Just because of this, you dare to see our mansion master? Our mansion master is not someone you can see just because you want to. It was obvious that Elder Baiyu was biased. Wei Yun had a good relationship with her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said those words. You mean to say that the two of them were casually given away? Yi Tianyun looked at Yu Shiqian and the others. Their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with disappointment. This is the best choice. Elder Baiyu looked at Yu Shiqian and the others coldly and said, Since the Heavenly Demon Manor will come, you guys wait here. If they want you to go over, then go over. This is your fault, so you have to take responsibility for it. Yes. Yu Shiqian bit her lips. Tears welled up in her eyes. The two of them were like a piece of rag, thrown away after using it. Gold and jade on the outside, but rotten inside. Is this how a sect is managed? Yi Tianyun shook his head and said indifferently, This will only disappoint you. As an elder, you can't even tell the situation. What does an outsider like you know? Do you really dare to provoke the Heavenly Cloud's empire for the benefit of the sect? Elder Baiyu sneered. What else can you do besides talk big? How dare you call yourself the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? If you were in the Heavenly Cloud's empire, you would definitely die. Kneel down. Yi Tianyun said in a deep voice. A terrifying pressure pressed down on Elder Baiyu. Elder Baiyu's legs softened, and she actually knelt down. She was a dignified core transformation expert, yet she was forced to kneel down. This showed how strong this young man's cultivation was. How could he have such amazing power? Could he be at core transformation stage 6th or 7th layer? You actually want me to kneel down? Elder Baiyu screamed. She wanted to get up, but she couldn't. She felt like there was a weight of 10,000 pounds pressing down on her shoulders, making her unable to move. Let alone kneel down. Even if I ask you to die, your White Lotus Mansion won't dare to hold me responsible. Yi Tianyun said coldly. I suspect that you are colluding with the Demon Heaven Mansion, and that you are in cahoots with the Demon Heaven Mansion. Who your White Lotus Mansion colludes with has nothing to do with me, but now, whoever has a relationship with the Heavenly Demon Manor will be punished. Young Mastery. Yu Shiqian and the others were shocked, and they all looked at Yi Tianyun. Little you are back? At this time, an elder who was about the same age as Elder Baiyu came out, and when he saw Yu Shiqian, he smiled and walked out, but the situation around him didn't seem right. Elder Su Fan. Yu Shiqian said respectfully. Elder Baiyu, what's the situation now? Elder Su Fan frowned, then looked at Yi Tianyan, and he didn't know why Elder Baiyu would kneel in front of a young man. Yi Tianyan only pressured Elder Baiyu, so the others didn't feel any pressure at all. There is no situation. I told her to kneel. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. She repeatedly offended me, and it's already good enough that I didn't sentence her to death. What's wrong with kneeling a little? Elder Su Fan, I don't know where this kid came from. Not only did he impersonate the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, but he also killed the people of Heavenly Demon Mansion. Quickly asked the other elders to arrest him and hand him over to the Heavenly Cloud's empire. Elder Baiyu felt very humiliated, and he couldn't get up even if he wanted to. Impersonate the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? Elder Su Fan was taken aback. This wasn't a simple matter. Yu Shiqian and the others didn't know how to deal with this situation, and as the younger generation, what could they say? Even if he impersonated the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, he did it to save this disciple. Yu Shiqian came over and knelt down, and she pleaded. This young master saved this disciple, otherwise, he would have already been taken to Heavenly Demon Mansion. I beg Elder Su Fan, please blame me. Everything happened because of me, just hand me over to Heavenly Demon Mansion. Young Master it's enough. I know you are kind, but it's enough. Yu Shiqian sighed deeply. She was already desperate. Even if Yi Tianyan was strong, in her opinion, he was still a lot weaker than the Heavenly Cloud's empire. Are you really the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? Elder Su Fan didn't scold Yi Tianyan right away, but he looked at Yi Tianyan. Is there a problem? Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Do you think I don't have the aura of an emperor, or do you think I'm too young? Elder Su Fan felt more like the latter. Who would think that Yi Tianyan was a great emperor at such a young age? Elder of White Lotus Mansion, hand over Yu Shiqian. Also hand over that brat. At this time, a roar came from the carriage in the air, and immediately, a few figures fell from the sky. One of them was a handsome man with a low cultivation, and the two men beside him had a higher cultivation than him, but they were obviously guards, and their cultivation was at core transformation stage. Young Master sure. When Wei Yun saw the young master, he immediately got a little bit of strength, and his eyes were filled with a bit of affection. Yu Shiqian, I invited you to Heavenly Demon Mansion as a guest, but I didn't expect you to kill my people. No wonder you didn't agree to my pursuit. It turns out that you have someone you like. Young Master sure said angrily. Where is that boy? Young Master sure, it's him. Yuan Long, who was lying in the carriage, pointed at Yi Tianyan and said angrily. He not only killed our people, but he also said that he is the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Young Master sure's eyes turned cold, and then he looked at Yi Tianyan and said angrily. You. When he saw Yi Tianyan's face clearly, he felt like his throat was being strangled, and he couldn't say a word. I heard that you are very familiar with me, and you even drank with me and called me brother? Yi Tianyan squinted at him with a bit of playfulness. Chapter 6:12. Yi Tianyan looked at young Master Sure indifferently. He didn't know young Master Sure's real name, and he didn't care about young Master Sure's real name. Young Master Sure, he is pretending to be the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Didn't you see the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor before? Expose his true identity now. Yuan Long laughed from behind, and his eyes were filled with endless joy. He was ready to see Yi Tianyan die in front of him. Pretending to be the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? Yes, he pretended to be the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, and said that he is the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Wei Yun climbed up and walked towards Yi Tianyan. As if he had the confidence, he no longer evaded Yi Tianyan's gaze, and there was no fear like before. With young Master Shi's support, she was full of confidence, and her previous fear was swept away. Then it turned into arrogance, a kind of arrogance. In her opinion, being able to associate with someone who knew the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor was like having a relationship with the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. The heavenly cloud's great emperor's popularity was too high, and anyone who saw him would worship him endlessly. He was definitely a legend in the mortal world. On the side, Yu Shiqian's face changed, and she hurriedly came in front of young Master Shi and said, "Young Master Shi, young Master, he didn't pretend to be the heavenly cloud's great emperor. It's all my fault." Even Yu Shiqian apologized, which made Wei Yun feel even more happy. However, Elder Baiyu wanted to get up, but he couldn't, so he could only yell, "You little brat, get out of here." Just when everyone thought that Yi Tianyan was a fake, young Master Shi's legs trembled, and after he reacted, he slapped Wei Yun in the face. "Pa!" A crisp sound spread around. "How dare you? How dare you disrespect the heavenly cloud's great emperor? He is the heavenly cloud's great emperor, not a fake." Then young Master Shi knelt on the ground and said in a respectful tone, "Greetings, greetings, heavenly cloud's great emperor." His limbs were on the ground, and he didn't even dare to raise his head. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. He told others that he had drunk wine with Yi Tianyan before, but it was all a bluff. In reality, he had not drunk wine at all. At most, he had seen him from afar and knew what he looked like. Even his father didn't have the right to propose a toast, let alone him. Calling him brother was just a bluff. When young Master Shi knelt down, his words stunned everyone, including Yuan Long and the others who doubted Yi Tianyan. Following that, the surroundings fell into a deathly silence. Not a single word could be said. A legend of the mortal world was standing right in front of him, questioning his identity from the very beginning. Yi Tianyan said that he was the heavenly cloud's great emperor, but no one believed him. Now that young Master Shi had said so, who wouldn't believe him? He was the only one who had seen Yi Tianyan's true face. Wei Yun covered his swollen face and stared blankly at Yi Tianyan, his eyes filled with disbelief. The impostor who had been screaming and screaming before was really the heavenly cloud's great emperor. Now she didn't feel any pain on her face at all, and she was shocked by the situation. "I heard that you are very familiar with me?" Yi Tianyan said indifferently. No. It's all nonsense, I don't know anything about it." Young Master Shi suddenly jumped up, pulled out the long sword from his waist, and stabbed at Yuan Long who was lying on the carriage. "How dare you use the name of the heavenly cloud's great emperor to commit crimes outside? Apologize for your sins with your death." Yuan Long looked at the long sword in his chest in disbelief. It was really a fatal sword, and it was merciless. He had followed young Master Shi for so many years, but he didn't expect that young Master Shi would kill him so mercilessly. Young Master Shi. Yuan Long was full of resentment before he died, but it wasn't because of Yi Tianyan, but because of his young master. He didn't expect that everything was fake, and it wasn't because of Yi Tianyan, but because they just met. All the problems were because of his young master, and it caused a lot of problems for him. Immediately, Yuan Long was completely dead. He was full of unwillingness, but he could understand it. If young Master Shi didn't do this, the Heavenly Demon Mansion would probably be implicated. "Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, I have brought trouble to you. It's all my fault for not disciplining him properly, which led to this situation." Young Master Shi's back was dripping with cold sweat, and he didn't know if he could fool Yi Tianyan with this trick. "Kneel." Yi Tianyan's eyes were cold, and he followed young Master Shi's pressure. Bang! Young Master Shi's knees directly kneeled on the ground, and blood flowed from his knees, staining the ground red. It was enough to show how heavy the pressure was. It was much heavier than Elder Baiyu's pressure. "This trick is good for others, but will it work on me?" Yi Tianyan said indifferently. "Using my name to swindle and kidnap people outside, this courage is not small." I was wrong. Please let me go, Great Emperor." After young Master Shi was seen through, he quickly kowtowed and admitted his mistake. He didn't dare to stop even after his head was broken. This scene fell into the eyes of the crowd, and it was no longer a word to describe it as shock. Especially Zhao Yu. She was sweating profusely. Before, she said that if Yi Tianyan was the great emperor, then she would be the empress. Now that he was really the great emperor, wouldn't she be finished? Zhao Yu hurriedly knelt down, and she wanted to cry but had no tears. She was already scared to the point that her legs were soft. She didn't even need to kneel down because of Yi Tianyan. Yi Tianyan glanced at them, and even Wei Yin knelt down, and he didn't know what to say. Elder White Feather's expression was even more interesting, alternating between white and green. Her previous offense had made her intestines turn green with regret. If Yi Tianyan really blamed them and killed them, no one would dare to look into it. Yu Shiqian also looked at Yi Tianyan, and she felt that everything was so surreal. The legendary Great Emperor appeared in front of her. She didn't expect that the puppet palace lord of heaven's top mansion would become the Great Emperor. Get up. Yi Tianyan signaled Yu Shiqian and Zhao Yu to get up. Great Emperor. You don't blame me? Zhao Yu felt very embarrassed. She called Yi Tianyan Empress so loudly, and it was really embarrassing. What's there to blame? Ignorant people are innocent. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Although I have nothing to do with White Lotus Mansion, I don't like people who collude with outsiders to intimidate me. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Especially if it's related to me. Elder Bai Yu and the others' faces changed, and they immediately knelt down and kowtowed. Sorry, we didn't mean to. They also knelt down and kowtowed continuously. At this time, it wasn't shameful to kowtow, they just wanted to save their lives, and they didn't want to implicate the sect. Chapter 6:13. Only the sound of kowtowing could be heard, but no one dared to resist. Especially young Master Shi, who had been kowtowing for a long time. His forehead was already red, but he could only keep kowtowing and beg for Yi Tianyan's forgiveness. At this time, the rest of the people of the White Lotus Mansion heard the noise, but they all stood aside quietly. Even the mansion master didn't dare to say a word. The mansion master of the White Lotus Mansion was a beautiful woman in her 40s. She was mature and steady, but now she looked like a servant girl. She stood beside Yi Tianyan with her hands put together on her abdomen, and looked at everything coldly. Her cultivation is not bad. She is at 8th level core transformation stage, but in Yi Tianyan's eyes, she can be easily killed with a single slap. Elder Bai Yu and the others kowtowed one after another, but the mansion master didn't say a word. In this world, strength was everything. Even if Yi Tianyan did something wrong, they could only swallow their anger. If they resisted, they would be destroyed. Moreover, now that she knew the ins and outs of the matter, she wouldn't say anything. That's enough. Yi Tianyan raised his hand gently, and they stopped kowtowing. They all raised their heads and looked at him, begging for his forgiveness. Do you think you can beg for my forgiveness with this kind of trick? Yi Tianyan looked at him indifferently. It would be meaningless even if he cut off one of his hands, let alone kowtowing. Young Master Shi's face changed. He said in panic, No. I really didn't use the name of the Great Emperor to deceive people really. Is that so? I'll send someone to inquire about it. Whether your heavenly evil mansion can leave any inheritance or not depends on the information I've sent out. Yi Tianyan looked at Zhao Yu and the others and said, The three of you, go and find out how many things the heavenly demon mansion has done using my name. Yes. Elder Bai Yu felt the pressure on her body was gone, so she hurriedly got up and went to work. Even Wei Yin nodded and went to work. Similarly, Zhao Yu did not have any complaints. She did not dare to have any complaints either. She quickly went to inquire about this information. Only young Master Shi was still kneeling, and his face was getting uglier and uglier. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't dare to brag so much. At first he thought that Yi Tianyan wouldn't come here, but he didn't expect that not only did he come here, but he also met his stupid subordinates. Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. Do you want our White Lotus Mansion to help you investigate? This is to compensate for our rudeness. At this time, the mansion lord of White Lotus Palace stood up and said respectfully. Yi Tianyan nodded and said, Okay, thank you for your help. It's no trouble at all. Bai Yulian smiled. Even if it was troublesome, she didn't dare to say it out loud. When she found out what had happened, she knew that the hospitality here was not good enough. How would she dare to say that it was troublesome? She to know that they didn't to tell her, so they great. Immediately after, Bai Yulian sent out many disciples to search for information. Young Master Shi remained kneeling on the ground, not daring to get up. Immediately, White Lotus sent many disciples to search for information, but young Master Shi was still kneeling in the same place, not daring to get up. After telling all the disciples to search for information, Bai Yulian bowed respectfully and said, "Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, I heard that you are looking for me?" She really couldn't remember why Yi Tianyan was looking for her. She remembered that she had no connection with the Heavenly Cloud's empire, and it was impossible for her to provoke the Heavenly Cloud's empire. She couldn't remember why Yi Tianyan was looking for her. She remembered that she had no connection with the Heavenly Cloud's empire, and it was impossible for her to provoke the Heavenly Cloud's empire. Yu Shiqian's appearance and talent were among the top in the entire White Lotus Mansion. She had a lot of pursuers, and young Master Shi was one of them. Everyone knew that this time, he was using the reputation of the Heavenly Cloud's empire to pursue her. There were many suitors, and young Master Shi was one of them. Everyone knew that this time, he was using the reputation of the Heavenly Cloud's empire to pursue her. Who knew that he would be caught by Yi Tianyan? Thinking about the possibility of becoming the Empress, Bai Yulian was ecstatic. If she became the Empress, the White Lotus Mansion would definitely soar. At that time, who would dare to provoke them? I have met Miss Yu before, and she is a good person. She also kindly reminded me, which is why I am willing to help her. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Great Emperor, did I help you before? Yu Shiqian asked in confusion. She really didn't know when she helped Yi Tianyan. They met before, but they didn't even talk to each other, let alone help him. What about this? When Yi Tianyan turned to look at her, he gently waved his hand, and a familiar face appeared in front of her. After seeing it clearly, Yi Tianyan quickly waved his hand, and took back the 100 transformation mask. No one else saw it. Yes, it's you. Yu Shiqian was shocked. This time, she finally knew when she saw Yi Tianyan. She didn't expect that it was a long time ago on Devil Cloud Island. She was completely shocked. It was a long time ago, and she almost forgot it. If it weren't for this face, she really wouldn't have remembered it. Now do you know? Yi Tianyan said with a smile. If White Lotus Mansion doesn't treat you well, you can come to my Heavenly Cloud's empire. I will arrange a good position for you. Yi Tianyan was trying to poach Yu Shiqian in front of him, but Bai Yulian wasn't unhappy at all. Although she couldn't become an empress, she could definitely help White Lotus Mansion, if she could hold an important position in the Heavenly Cloud's empire. I will. Yu Shiqian was dazed. She hadn't thought that a friendly reminder would bring her such benefits. A great emperor would take care of her like this. Yi Tianyan wasn't a fool, and he didn't say that just because she was beautiful. Yu Shiqian was very talented, and her status wasn't bad, but she was willing to remind him, which proved that she was kind. Kindness was one of his main criteria, and she was also a good person, so she was very suitable to be a minister of Heavenly Cloud's empire. Yi Tianyan smiled and didn't say anything. He lifted his foot and walked towards the White Lotus Mansion. Bai Yulian quickly followed him, and at the same time, signaled Yu Shiqian to follow. Although he didn't come here to see Yu Shiqian, at least he had a good impression of her. Yu Shiqian nodded and followed Yi Tianyan to see what was going on. By the way, you stay here and wait for the news to come back. If you leave, you will be responsible for the consequences. Yi Tianyan's tone is very calm, but in the ears of young Master Shi it is so scary. Yes. I definitely won't leave even half a step. Chapter 614. May I know why the great emperor came here? Bai Yulian asked respectfully. She was still very anxious. If it wasn't for Yu Shiqian, then why did he come here? Did someone really provoke the Heavenly Cloud's empire? Don't worry, I'm here to see a treasure. Yi Tianyan said straightforwardly. If Yi Tianyan wanted to dig it, the White Lotus Mansion would definitely know about it. The point was that he wanted to see if the White Lotus Mansion knew about this treasure. Treasure? What treasure? Is it our mansion's legacy treasure? Bai Yulian asked in surprise. But even our mansion's legacy treasure is at most a low-grade saint artifact. It's not even worth mentioning in front of the great emperor. The best treasure of the White Lotus Mansion was indeed a low-grade saint artifact, which was the best they had. For a grade 3 faction, Having a low-grade saint artifact was already quite amazing. However, as Bai Yulian said, a low-grade saint artifact was really worthless to him. It wasn't that it was worthless, but he didn't want it at all. A low-grade saint artifact was quite good for his subordinates. As for himself, it wasn't a divine artifact, so he really didn't want it now. No, it's not your mansion's legacy treasure. Don't you want to know if your White Lotus mansion has any ancestral teachings or historical information? Yi Tianyan asked. Ancestral teachings? Bai Yulian said hesitantly. They must have their own secrets, and it would be better if they didn't say it. If you don't say it, I will take it myself. I'm just telling you in advance out of politeness. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. It's fine if I take it myself, but if it's another empire's faction that finds it, I don't think they will be as friendly as me. Yi Tianyan was right. If it was the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom, the White Lotus mansion would definitely be destroyed. They would definitely occupy it first, and then slowly search for it. This way they could keep it a secret and not spread out. A divine king's supreme treasure was a top-notch treasure that even a divine kingdom would covet. The heavenly netherworld divine kingdom wasn't the strongest divine kingdom, so they would definitely hide it secretly. Bai Yulian's expression was somewhat unsightly, and she seemed to be struggling internally. I'm not spouting nonsense. The reason why I know about this is because I heard it from a divine nation in the netherworld. Originally, they wanted to find this treasure through the netherworld empire. Whether it's your treasure or not, it'll definitely come looking for you. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. I have eradicated the netherworld empire, but I don't think the netherworld divine nations will let this matter rest. He was not an unreasonable person. If the White Lotus mansion was willing to negotiate with him, he would not force them. He didn't know what the treasure was, but if the heavenly netherworld divine nation got it, then the heavenly clouds empire would be the first to suffer. It could even be said that he was doing this for the entire mortal realm. He was doing this for himself, and for the entire mortal realm. Even if he got the treasure, he wouldn't use it at will, let alone choose to conquer the mortal realm. Divine nation forces. Bai Yulian's expression became even more unsightly. The netherworld empire's reputation was even more well known. After thinking for a while, she sighed and said, All right, I'll tell you about it. A long time ago, the ancestor said that there is a demon soul trapped at the bottom of the White Jade Peak, and it must not be dug out. Otherwise, it will be a disaster. In order to suppress this demon soul, we need a lot of yin qi, so we can only recruit female disciples. We can't recruit other male disciples. Bai Yulian said in detail, which surprised Yu Shiqian, who was on the side. She didn't expect such a thing to happen. So there is such a thing. Yi Tianyan said. It wasn't impossible. The Divine King's supreme treasure was just an illusion, and breaking the seal was probably the key. Yes, that's why we must not dig it out. Bai Yulian said. This is the ancestral teaching of the Mansion Master, and only the Mansion Master can know about it. Yi Tianyan nodded. The less people know about these things the better, so it's normal that they don't know. Is there a way to go down? Yi Tianyan asked. No, we don't dare to dig it out. It's always been buried under the ground, so we don't know. Bai Yulian explained. If that's the case, then I'll open a tunnel. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Don't stop me. There are some things that need to be investigated in detail. If it's a demon seal, I won't destroy it. Instead, I will strengthen it. After so many years, no matter how strong the divine rune is, it will be loosened. If it loosens, you can imagine what will happen. Even if no one touches it, it will still come out. Yi Tianyan's words were quite sharp, which made Bai Yulian's face change. She thought about it carefully, and realized that it was true. No matter how strong a divine rune was, it would be loosened after so many years. There was no need to doubt this point. The divine inscriptions passed down by so many grandmasters, and even grandmasters would gradually be eroded away as time flowed by, eventually disappearing from the world. The difference was that the higher the level of the divine rune, the longer it could last. Then I'll leave it to the heavenly cloud's great emperor. Bai Yulian finally gritted her teeth and agreed. Because no matter how much she tried to dissuade him, it would be useless. Yi Tianyan could easily kill them with his cultivation, So how could he stop them? Moreover, if the divine rune really loosened, it would be troublesome. Well, if it can be transferred, I will transfer the seal so that there won't be any hidden dangers here. Yi Tianyan said. Really? If it can be transferred? Bai Yulian's eyes lit up. She had always wanted to recruit only female disciples, which was not what they wanted. They always wanted to recruit male disciples to strengthen their power, but in order to suppress the demon seal, they could only choose to recruit female disciples. This was a last resort. If it could be transferred, then recruiting male disciples would definitely greatly increase the power of White Lotus Mansion. Whether it can be transferred or not, I have to go down and see, Yi Tianyan said. Mansion Lord Bai, please lead the way, the less people know the better. Mansion Lord Bai, please lead the way. After saying that, Yi Tianyan looked at Yu Shiqian, and the latter quickly nodded to show that she understood. Then I will go back first. Yu Shiqian knew her place, so she didn't go with Yi Tianyan. The less people knew about this, the better. She wouldn't be of much help if she went with them, so she decided not to go. Come down with me and see what's going on. You are quite talented, so maybe you can understand something. Yi Tianyan waved his hand and said. Chapter 6:15. Yi Tianyan attached so much importance to Yu Shiqian. This made Bai Yulian want to train her even more. As long as Yi Tianyan was still alive, Yu Shiqian would definitely benefit from it. Yi Tianyan just gave her a simple fortune. Whether it was a devil seal or not, it would increase her knowledge. This was extremely beneficial to cultivators, as they might be able to comprehend something from it. It was pointless for cultivators to stay at home. They had to go out and comprehend the world. Otherwise, it would be difficult for them to break through in the later stages. Yi Tianyan is not one of them. The crazy leveling system is enough to let him level up easily, without any restrictions. As long as he had enough beasts to kill, he would be able to reach the Divine King realm tomorrow. This realm was unreachable in the eyes of others, but to him, it was within his reach. He wouldn't kill innocent people. If he did, he would be punished. The system had already set a limit for him. Even if there was no punishment, he wouldn't kill innocent people. It was his choice to follow his heart and not walk the path of the devil. Great Emperor, it's here. Bai Yulian brought him to the foot of the White Jade Mountain. The most magnificent palace was built on the mountain. That was where Bai Yulian and the other grand elders lived. Ordinary disciples couldn't get close to this place unless they were summoned. The Yin Qi here is the heaviest. All the Yin Qi in the surroundings is gathered here. It's very suitable for you Yin body cultivators to cultivate. Yi Tianyan squinted his eyes and looked around. There were many formations here. The technique is not bad. It's at least at the level of a Divine Rune Grandmaster. It seems that your White Lotus Mansion's foundation is not simple. It's just that as time passes, it's inevitable that it will decline. Yes, it's the disciples' fault. Bai Yulian said awkwardly. The White Lotus Mansion's foundation was not bad. A long time ago, the White Lotus Mansion was also very glorious. It was as powerful as an empire. But as time passed, it eventually declined. It was too difficult to not decline, unless there was a strong cultivator in charge. But strong cultivators had a limit to their lifespan. They could only rely on themselves for the rest of their lives. Yes, it's about time to start digging from here. Tell the others to stay away from here. Yi Tianyan said calmly. Just follow behind me later. This process won't take too long. I've already given the order. No matter what happens here, no one is allowed to approach this place, Bai Yulian said. She had already made the necessary arrangements to prevent them from coming here as they pleased. This place was originally only known to the manor head, so they would definitely not be allowed to come near. Sure. Yi Tianyan nodded and took out the Nether Heaven Divine Sword. When the divine weapon appeared, a terrifying pressure spread out, causing the hearts of the two women to go cold. They felt a chill on their necks, as if they were about to be beheaded at any moment. This is a divine artifact? They widened their beautiful eyes. This terrifying pressure was not released by Yi Tianyan. It was released by his own power, and it exerted a lot of pressure on them. Yes. Yi Tianyun answered simply. The two of them sucked in a breath of cold air. In front of a divine artifact was just a piece of trash. However, when they thought about it carefully, it was not surprising that Yi Tianyun had a divine artifact. However, what happened next almost made them spit out blood. Yi Tianyun picked up the weapon and madly slashed at the ground, using it as a shovel, rapidly digging a tunnel. Using a divine artifact to dig a tunnel. They were instantly speechless. Only Yi Tianyun could do something like this. If it were them, they would not have dared to do this. They would have long been worshipped. Yi Tianyun did not care so much. Using a divine artifact to dig was very easy. He could dig down effortlessly. No matter how hard the rock was, under this divine artifact, it was like a piece of tofu. He could easily pierce through it. What he needed was speed. He did not want to be slow. This was not a waste, but rather he would use the best. With his shocking speed, he quickly dug a tunnel. Every second he could dig a few dozen feet deep. It was quite fast. This was not his limit. As his speed became faster and faster, he could dig a few dozen feet deep every second. His speed was so fast that even Bai Yulian and the others could not keep up. The soil that was dug out was all stored in Yi Tianyun's storage ring, so there was no need to worry about the soil. After digging for the time it took for a joss stick to burn, Yi Tianyun slowed down. Bai Yulian and the others who were following behind were puzzled. Were they about to reach it? They did not know whether there was a demon seal below, nor did they know where it was. Therefore they did not know where to dig even if they dug. They could only use their spiritual sense to explore the surroundings and dig bit by bit. Yi Tianyun's appraisal eye had already locked onto the target. Therefore his goal was very clear. Very quickly he dug around the surroundings. Almost there. Yi Tianyun reminded, and immediately dug forward. Dang. Something in front of him was cut down, and then a big hole was blasted out. Yi Tianyun took the lead and walked in. Bai Yulian and the others followed closely behind. After stepping into the passage, what came into view was a spacious secret room. The surroundings were made of hard black iron stone, but in front of a divine weapon, it was extremely fragile and easily broken. The yang qi is so strong. As soon as Yi Tianyun entered, he immediately felt a burning feeling in his surroundings. It was constantly invading his body, as if there was a fire in front of him. In fact, there was no fire in the surroundings. In front of him was a huge rock. The surface of the rock was densely covered in divine runes, and there were also thick chains that sealed the rock tightly, as if it had been tied up. There were countless tiny divine runes engraved on the thick chains, so many that it was impossible to count them clearly. This is the rock that sealed the demon? Bai Yulian and the others looked at the towering rock in front of them in shock. It was like a small mountain standing in front of them. Although there was no fire here, it was not dark at all. The yang qi that was constantly being released from this huge rock made the air seem as if it was filled with fire. It lit up the place and illuminated the surroundings. At the same time, they felt very uncomfortable. They were all yin bodies, so facing such strong yang qi, they naturally felt uncomfortable. Looking up, above the rock, there was a steady stream of yin qi being drawn down, fiercely suppressing the rock and greatly weakening the yang qi. However, it seemed like it was still slightly weaker. Otherwise, this place would not be filled with yang qi, but yin qi. Chapter 6:16. Yi Tianyun carefully looked at the boulder in front of him. There was nothing around it except for the iron chain. The secret room here was sealed with a simple concealment divine rune. This way, those with weak spiritual sense wouldn't be able to easily detect the situation inside, thus protecting the secret of this place. But with the passage of time, if a Spirit King stage cultivator came here to investigate carefully, they would still be able to detect it. By that time, they would be able to find this place and dig it out. In addition to releasing yang qi, the boulder in front of them was also releasing an ominous aura. It was a terrifying aura that was mixed with the yang qi. Just the aura alone was enough to make them feel weak in the knees. Even the mansion lord felt a little powerless and a little scared. Her cultivation was only at the core transformation stage, So facing this kind of aura, she would definitely not be able to withstand it. Is this the devil seal? The old ancestor really didn't lie to us. Before Bai Yulian saw the boulder, she really thought that the old ancestor's words were fake. It was hard to believe that there was a devil buried under them, but now, they immediately believed it. Just the aura that came out from the boulder was enough to make her feel terrified. Yu Shiqian couldn't get too close to the boulder, so she could only walk a little further away from it. This is indeed a seal. To be precise, it's a treasure. A divine artifact was used to seal this devil, Yi Tianyan said indifferently. If it was any other force, no matter what kind of ghost is sealed inside, as long as they can get their hands on this treasure, that's enough. This boulder looked very ordinary, but if they thought that it was just a simple boulder, then they would be too naive. Inside this boulder, there was a divine artifact, and it was a mid-rank divine artifact. A mid-rank divine artifact. This was a treasure that even a saint king coveted. It was definitely a divine king-level treasure. Heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet. Mid-rank divine artifact can change its size, weight up to 10 billion jin, can instantly turn into a huge stone tablet that can suppress the enemy, has the effect of sealing the soul and sealing the strong. A mid-rank divine artifact treasure is not a mid-rank divine artifact weapon, its meaning is different. A mid-rank divine artifact treasure is much more precious than a mid-rank divine artifact weapon. Only by examining it from a close distance would he be able to see what exactly it was. If he were to examine it from too far away, because there were too many divine runes, he wouldn't be able to see what was inside. It's already quite good to be able to see this boulder. Now that he observed it from a close distance, he can see that it's a mid-rank divine artifact treasure. If the Nether Heaven Divine Nation were to find out, they would definitely go crazy and rush over to snatch it. This is because of him. This divine artifact is that the divine artifact weapon. If he were to use it, no one would be able to break it. Divine artifact weapon of him. A divine artifact weapon would be able to break it. Divine artifact weapon of divine artifact weapon. And yen of divine artier, a sect of a stone. Divine artifact weapon Tian, Abel. Divine artifact weapon. It the divine artifact of E of if he or divine artier of power of sword. If, it of he of divine, and in he of heaven, he sort of. Now it has shrunk into a small treasure, buried in the boulder as a demon-suppressing treasure. Of course, the boulder outside is not an ordinary item. It's an extremely precious heavenly meteorite, which is extremely hard. It's a material that can be used to make a sacred artifact weapon, or even a divine artifact weapon. It's easy to imagine how extravagant it is. The iron chains binding the boulder are also made of an extraordinary item. It's made of a treasure called Xianshan gold. It's also one of the materials used to make divine artifacts. It can be said that none of them are useless. Even the divine runes on them are the seals of the Creator. What kind of demon is being sealed by such extravagance? Great Emperor, can we move it out like this? Bai Yulian thought of the most important thing. If they could move it out, nothing would be a problem. Although it's a treasure, it's a crime to be treasured. If they don't have enough power, they can't protect this treasure. Moreover, how can they deal with the demon sealed inside? I'm afraid not. Look at the iron chains, they're fixed to the ground, firmly nailed to the boulder. It can absorb the yin qi in the surroundings and let it seep into the boulder. If we break it by force, it's equivalent to breaking half of the seal. No one can say for sure what will come out of it. Even if it releases a little bit of its aura, it can instantly kill a void spirit stage expert. Yi Tianyan's expression was solemn. Using the appraisal eye, detailed data kept appearing in front of him. However, there's still a lot that can't be seen. After all, it's buried too deep. It's impossible to see what's sealed inside. Bai Yulian's heart sank. Originally, she thought that after moving the boulder, their White Lotus Mansion's situation would greatly improve. Who knew that they still can't move? One must know that the seal has absorbed most of the yin qi, leaving them with too little. Then what should we do now? Bai Yulian asked Yi Tianyan for help. Her realm is too low, so she can only ask Yi Tianyan for help. Right now, we can only strengthen the seal. It's obviously a little damaged. Repairing it won't be easy, But we can only repair it bit by bit. Yi Tianyun said solemnly. Because the seal is a little damaged, it caused the density of yang qi to increase, and also caused the density of your spiritual energy to decrease. As long as we repair it, your problems will be greatly reduced. When the time comes, I will continue to strengthen the seal to prevent it from being damaged. If anyone damages this place, I will know immediately. Yi Tianyun doesn't know what's inside, but to be able to use such a large amount of money to seal it, he feels that the thing sealed inside is definitely not simple. It's very likely to be a God King level demon. It was much stronger than the evil spirit race in the Phoenix Nest. This place was suppressed by a divine artifact. In addition to many powerful divine rune seals, it was much more extravagant than the Phoenix Nest. But choosing to suppress it here, Yi Tianyun can still understand. This place is under the 10 mountain ranges, and the Densing Qi can play a suppressive role. Only recruiting female disciples can only play a certain role. It doesn't mean that it will play a decisive role. Thank you so much. Bai Yulian doesn't know what to say. Previously, she was already prepared for Yi Tianyun to go back on his words. In any case, if he killed them, who would know? In the face of such a powerful treasure, he's not moved at all. Bai Yulian immediately felt admiration in her heart. If it were other greedy people, what does the White Lotus Mansion's safety have to do with them? Releasing the demon, taking the treasure and running away, it has nothing to do with them. Chapter 6:17. In the face of such an amazing treasure, it was impossible for Yi Tianyun not to be tempted. If he could get a medium-grade god artifact, it would be of great help to his future battles. After all, he was going to face the power of the Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom. The more treasures he had, the better. No one would complain about having too few treasures. Especially for such a precious treasure, he would definitely want to keep it for himself. The problem was that there was a demon sealed inside. Whether it was a demon or not, he wasn't sure. But to be able to use such a powerful seal to create this place, there must be a powerful figure sealed inside. If he was released, he might be able to escape to the Heaven Realm, or the Netherworld Realm. But what about his friends in the mortal realm? What about his own forces? They would probably all be destroyed, and there would be countless casualties. Of course, this wasn't something he wanted to see, so he had to greatly strengthen the seal here. He absolutely couldn't let the seal here be destroyed. You guys stay outside and cultivate. Cultivating in the area where yin and yang combine will allow your cultivation speed to be much faster than usual, Yi Tianyun suggested. Is that so? Bai Yulian and the others were puzzled. They followed him out of the secret room, and sat down to cultivate. They found that it was indeed much faster than usual. Where yin and yang intersected, there was a special balanced power. After absorbing it, even though they had yin constitutions, they could still achieve amazing results. That's true. We've never thought about it. Not to mention that they hadn't thought about it, there had never been a suitable place. Of course, they couldn't try it. Then they stayed outside to cultivate. They knew that the main reason why Yi Tianyun asked them to come out was to prepare to repair the god glyphs. After they went out, they could focus on repairing the god glyphs to avoid any accidents. Actually, Yi Tianyun was more worried that there would be problems that would affect their situation. So it was best for them to leave this room. The god glyphs here are really complicated. As expected of the creator's god glyphs. I'm afraid that only god kings can carve them. Yi Tianyun looked at the god glyphs on the iron chains. There were many damaged god glyphs here. The degree of damage wasn't great, just a little. But even so, it was already somewhat unable to suppress the energy inside. Let's start repairing it. Yi Tianyun instantly activated his heavenly gaze. Instantly, the divine inscriptions on the surface of his heavenly gaze could be seen clearly. Even when facing the creator of the divine inscriptions, the heavenly gaze was still extremely useful. This was a top-notch talent. Even a god king might not have such astonishing talent. With the help of the heavenly eye, he used the inspection eye to scan the area. And through the repair system, he instantly knew how to repair it. Although it was the divine inscription of the creator, it was not a problem to fix it a little. Moreover, he was now a grandmaster of divine inscriptions. Even if he couldn't draw it, it didn't mean that he couldn't repair it. After that, a divine rune brush appeared in his hand. This was the dragon's whisker divine brush he had obtained in the phoenix nest. It was a low-grade saint artifact that shopkeeper Yi had gifted him. After condensing his energy, he began to repair it bit by bit. The speed was extremely slow. His mental energy was also being depleted rapidly. The amount of mental energy used to repair divine inscriptions was definitely not low. In particular, the heavenly eye was constantly open, which consumed a lot of energy. Ding. Successfully repaired the creator's divine inscription. Reward: 1 million experience points, 5,000 divine inscription proficiency points. It took a full hour for Tianyan to finally repair a small divine inscription. The experience and proficiency gained were extremely impressive. Although he could use crazy mode to increase the speed of repair by 16 times, it would consume too much crazy point, so there was no need to do so for the time being. He still had a lot of time, so there was no need to be so anxious. Unless the devil was about to come out at any time, then it would be different. Continue to repair. Tianyan continued to repair inside. After Bai Yulian cultivated for a while, she took the initiative to leave and let Yu Shiqian stay here to look after Tianyan. The cultivation environment here was good, but Bai Yulian had more things to do. As the mansion lord, it was impossible for him to cultivate in seclusion all the time, so he still had to go out and strengthen the management here. No one was allowed to enter this area, including the elders. As time went by, Tianyan's mental energy was almost depleted, so he chose to meditate and rest. After recovering, he continued to repair. This cycle repeated again and again. The experience and proficiency gained was quite considerable. This is a rare opportunity to break through and gain a lot of proficiency to improve his divine rune proficiency. He had always been focused on improving his cultivation, so it was time to improve on this aspect. Ding, successfully repaired. Another divine rune was successfully repaired, and he gained a lot of experience and proficiency. When he continued to repair the next chain, a voice sounded from the side. Are you the one who has been repairing the master's seal? At this time, a ghostly voice sounded from the side, and an old man flew out of the rock. Without a doubt, it was a phantom. Heavenly rock suppressing ancient tablet tool spirit? Tianyan was stunned. He rarely saw a tool spirit appear. Most of them were small phantom created by himself. This is the tool spirit of a divine tool. The meaning is completely different. The tool spirit is equivalent to the soul of the heavenly rock suppressing ancient tablet. If the tool spirit dies, then the treasure is useless. It is quite difficult to cultivate a tool spirit. Just think about it. It must be difficult to make a treasure speak. It must be nurtured for a long time to give birth to a tool spirit, and its power will be even more amazing. Yes, I am the tool spirit of the heavenly rock suppressing ancient tablet. If it weren't for you repairing this divine rune, I really wouldn't be able to come out for a breath of fresh air. The old man looked up and down at him and said, You don't seem to be a descendant of the master. How can you help repair the divine rune seal? I don't know what is inside, but it feels very dangerous. No matter what, I must repair it, lest it comes out to harm the world. Tianyan said. If his cultivation was strong, he wouldn't mind letting it out, but he doesn't feel invincible now. Even with the evil spirit set, he is not sure he can deal with it. If a peak Saint King stage or even a God King stage powerhouse came out, can he stop it? He would most likely be killed with a slap. Haha, I didn't expect there to be a human who doesn't want to see such a treasure. You are one of the few I have seen. The tool spirit praised. If I hadn't seen you repairing the divine rune, I would have come out and slapped you to death. As long as anyone destroys this divine rune without permission, they will die. The tool spirit's murderous aura is awe-inspiring. This kind of murderous aura is not something an ordinary tool spirit can release. There is no doubt that this heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet has killed many lives before. Otherwise it would be impossible to have such a fierce murderous aura. Tianyan narrowed his eyes and looked at the tool spirit. The tool spirit's cultivation was very strong, reaching the second level of the Saint King stage, which was even stronger than the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.